What's going on, guys? We are live. We live, baby. It's C Moody here with
D Moody.
And we here to give you sports, as we always do. NFL, college football, WWE, World Series, NBA. We're sports moves. 2 Moodys.
1 duty.
Sports. Let's get into it. What is going on, guys? We are Sports Moods, 2 Moodys,
1 duty.
Sports. We're going to kick off tonight with our first ever podcast going live. We're going to start off recapping the NFL. And if you followed us, you know that D Moody had a phenomenal week this week, and he destroyed me. Go ahead, give it to him. He deserves it. D Moody went 12-1 in prediction picks for this week, while I was 9-4. And this was the first time, which I just said then before we started, the first time that when we agreed on anything, all of them we both got right. But I mean, of course, so if he went 12-1, the only one he missed was Thursday Night Football. But we're going to get into these games specifically, starting off with Thursday Night Football, being the Baltimore Ravens shutting out the Miami Dolphins. I would say surprisingly, but it was what you would expect, I guess, out of the Dolphins at least, even with Joe Flacco going down in the late second quarter. But they shut him out, like I said, 40-0. D Moody, how you feel about this game?
I'm really disappointed in this game because I could have had a perfect week.
You
I
could
have
have
13-0 if the Dolphins just would have won the game. But I'll take 12-1. But the big thing for me in this game, both of these teams coming off a short week. Anytime you're playing on Sunday, then have to turn around within 3 days and play on a Thursday, that's a quick turnaround. Miami was 4-2 going into this game. They had a nice little comeback win last Sunday over the Jets. So I was thinking maybe Miami is going in the right direction, despite the fact that Jay Cutler went down. Matt Moore is an experienced quarterback. He's been in the starting position before, so I thought they would be fine against the Ravens. But for me, it was just total domination for the Ravens, despite the Flacco injury. And if a lot of you follow us since we've been doing this podcast, I give Joe Flacco a hard time. I call him Joe Fluco. I just say DTF. Don't trust Flacco. But seeing that happening to him, I was really disappointed in that.
Yeah.
It was, there's just no place in the NFL. And what I'm talking about is the hit from Kinko Alonso.
Yeah.
And it was just no place for that in this game. He's sliding. He's giving himself up on the play. There's no reason for you to go low on him like that. Even though at that point he's out of the pocket. He's a runner at that point. But I feel like when you slide down, that's letting that defender know you're giving yourself away. Now, I know sometimes in real time it's hard to stop on a dime.
The momentum
momentum is there sometimes. There's a lot of that goes into that, but it's still at the end of the day. You see him sliding. There's just no place for that. What did you think of that?
No, I agree with you on that. I think as I was watching it, one of the commentaries, I can't remember, they were going on about that hit. They were saying if you can notice the quarterback's the body starting to go backwards, that should indicate to you that that's a slide. And that way, of course they're trying to prevent, yardage because like you said, once he's out of the pocket, he's a runner. But if you start to see his body starts to lean backwards, you should know that that's an indicator that, he is giving himself up. And you shouldn't really kind of persist in, trying to hit him. So, it was a very bad play or bad look for Kiko Alonso, the linebacker for the Miami Dolphins. I know they had an argument about it. I think he, tried to defend himself, just saying that he was just doing what he's supposed to do. But, I mean, in that sense, you just got to give it up, man. He's going down. It's pretty noticeable. Mm-hmm. And it really looked bad for Joe. But go ahead.
But I was going to say, but that obviously, how would you know to aim your hit to go low as you see him going down? So, like, at that point, if you were still up high, you would miss him because he's already sliding. Yeah. So you still had to see him go on a decline as he's sliding down to the turf to still hit him that low.
Right.
One thing I loved about it, though, was the passion that Ravens head coach John Harbaugh had. He pretty much stood up for Flacco. He was in Kiko Alonso's face, like, berating him, and that's not even his player. He was, like, in his face and letting him know he didn't appreciate that. There's no place for this in the game. Like, he was, like, very vocal with him. I don't know exactly what Harbaugh was saying to Alonso, but he was, like, in his face, giving him a piece of his mind about that situation. So, like I said, I honestly, learning this week, there was no suspension for the
really?
No suspension. I thought it would warrant a suspension.
Something, a fine at least.
A fine at least. I said at least 2 games.
Yeah. Just
to cut down on this. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, the league is getting soft. You can't hit the quarterback this way. You can't do this anymore. You can't do that.
But that's blatant.
It's blatant at that point.
Yeah.
Now, I could see if it was out of your control, but at the end of the day, the league has to get more stern and strict when it comes to this. Because it's player safety at this point.
Definitely.
Obviously, if you saw how Flacco looked at the end of that play, he didn't even know what his name was. If you probably were to ask him what his name was.
Yeah, it looked really bad for him.
Because he's just sitting there like he knew he was hurt, and he was just like he put his finger up, like
trying to ask for help.
He was dazed.
Yeah.
And you hate to see something like that happen in the league. Especially now, given the fact how previous players in the league have after effects after their football career, and they're still dealing with things because of hits due to concussions.
Oh man, I don't even want to get into the whole CTE situation. I remember watching that movie, based off of the real situation, starring Will Smith, off of the doctor who brought that to life. Mm-hmm. It really, it really made me see the danger in what football is like. And that's why I said I didn't want to get into it, because after watching it, my initial thought was like, my kids, I don't know if I want to let my kids play football in the future. But like you said, they are trying to make NFL a safer game, and that part is good. But like I said, situations like these where you just see bad plays or bad timing or bad intentions from players, you just never know how to avoid certain hits in situations like this.
I agree.
Yeah.
But for me, I just thought the Dolphins would play better given how they came back on the Jets last week. And surprisingly, I don't know if you knew that. Here's a fun fact about the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
Before going into this game, the Dolphins were 13-4 in their last 17 regular season games.
Wow.
Nobody ever... I didn't know that. Just doing my research this week, I was like, wow. And you know who they're tied with?
Who?
The Chiefs. 13-4 in their last 17 regular season games.
Stop playing.
But do you know who's number 1 in their last 17 regular season games?
I don't.
The Patriots. 14-3.
Is that
so
right?
So you think about the Dolphins, just we think that they're always bad, but over the last year and a half or so,
they've been playing really good football.
They've been playing okay football, given the fact of how everything's gone with Ryan Tannehill getting injured, and then picking up Jay Cutler in the offseason, and then now losing Cutler, and then now having Matt Moore back in. So,
is there any update? What is going on with Ryan Tannehill?
I think he's done for the season. I know he got hurt in the preseason.
Right.
So that was their draft pick from a few years ago, who they were trying to build their franchise around. So, it's just you try to find a way to win in spite of, and for them to be 13-4, I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people didn't know that.
Yeah, definitely, myself included.
Yeah.
But like we was going back to Joe Flacco, before he got injured, he did go 10 for 15, 101 yards, and have a touchdown. So he was on the road for a really good game. So it looked like they were going to have the win in the bag, with him. But in place of him, like you said, Ryan Mallett came in. He went 3 for 7, only threw for 20 yards, but did have a touchdown. Alex Collins, he played good, 18 carries for 113 yards. And Jeremy Maclin had 3 receptions, just 3, for 53 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. And the Baltimore defense held Miami to 196 total yards.
Yeah, it was an annihilation. They pretty much dominated that game from start to finish. The Flacco injury just seemed like it fueled them more.
Oh, yeah.
And they just poured it on top of the Dolphins. So the Ravens are now even at, 4-4?
I believe
and the
so.
Dolphins are now 4-3.
Yep.
So I don't know if you heard today, some big changes with the Dolphins.
I got that. I saw that they let go.
How do you say his name? How did you say it a couple weeks ago? A JJ?
A JJ. That is what I said last week. It's Ajayi.
Ajayi.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Yeah.
Traded to the Philadelphia Eagles.
I was shocked when I saw this.
That's a big move.
Yeah.
I think that's going to fit in well with the Eagles and what they're doing. So you got now a power back and LeGarrette Blount, and then you add the shiftiness of Ajayi. I think that's going to be a good fit for their running game, given the fact that the Eagles just lost their left tackle. So I guess now they feel like it's going to be more of a need to run the ball now because the protection may be a little bit different now for Carson Wentz. So they need an extra runner in there to try to generate offense. And especially now as it gets colder, the weather's starting to change, and running the ball is always key in bad weather and cold weather games and stuff. So, but I mean, Dolphins get routed on Thursday Night Football. They failed to put up a single point.
No points.
40-0. Ravens take it. Who do you have next?
Amazing. Next game I have. I'm gonna go ahead and get into it because we are the hometown. Well, not necessarily from us, but I mean, I guess they represent the Carolinas. Mm-hmm. So the Panthers versus who did they play? Because mine is messed up. Oh, the Bucks.
Yeah,
Tampa Bay. I had it messed up. I wrote over it, so it was Carolina. I mean, it's the Bucks though.
I mean, you writing off the Bucks? That's what you're trying to say?
Pretty much. I mean, especially with this performance. I mean, the Panthers. They win 17-3, so. Not much to say about the Bucks. I expected a lot better, even though we both agreed on the Panthers just by looking at the momentum, how they're starting to turn stuff around again. And Cam Newton had a pretty good game. He went 18 for 32, 154 yards passing with 1 touchdown, in spite of 1 interception. And he also ran for 44 yards and 11 carries. I mean, it's pretty much between him and the defense that, pretty much controlled this game.
Yeah, and for me, it just wasn't a pretty win, but
no, not at all.
Not at all. The defense played well for the Panthers, and that'll always give them a chance to win football games. No matter how they look from week to week, if they continue to keep pace and potentially get into the playoffs, that defense will always give them opportunity. Now, Cam Newton does have to hold up his end of the bargain and take better care of the football. This year has just been he's been turning the ball over a lot with a lot of careless throws and interceptions. If he can just dial that back a little bit and, cut down on the turnovers and the defense can play at a high level, I believe Carolina can give anyone a tough game from NFC or AFC. It's just the fact of what Cam Newton are we going to see and how will this team come out and play week to week. Some weeks they look really great, some weeks they look mediocre, and some weeks they just look flat out bad like they did last week versus Chicago Bears. Yeah. So we did know Cam Newton got into the media once again. He's always having a back and forth with the media, walking off of the podium and just not being interested in answering the questions. Now, one thing I always give Cam Newton his props when he does well, but at times it looks to me as if he's a sore loser in a lot of situations. And I hate to say that about him, but as a quarterback, it is your job to talk to the media before the game, after the game, prior to the game during the week in the terms of preparing for the game.
Well, what do you want them to say in the loss?
I mean, at this point, it's not the media's fault that your season is going the way that it's going. They're going to ask questions based off how you play or how your team is playing. Now, some questions are just, maybe you don't have to answer it, but you don't have to walk off. Like, you know, I look at it like this, and a lot of people give Tom Brady a lot of heat, but I look at some of the, like how Cam did with that Super Bowl. I remember when Tom Brady was almost going to carry the Patriots to a perfect season, and he lost the Super Bowl to the Giants.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have wanted to talk to the media that night after losing that game, but Tom Brady still talked to the media that night. Peyton Manning got blew out in the Super Bowl by the Seattle Seahawks. What was it, like 43-8?
It's pretty bad. Yeah.
He still talked to the media. So, I'm pretty sure he wasn't in his best mind. He probably was the last thing he wanted to do, but he still do it. He still did it.
Saying. I see what you're saying.
So my thing is with Cam Newton, it's a part of football. You have to talk to the media. I mean, you don't have to answer every question, but don't always let your body language, don't always let your emotions take you over. It's your job to do that.
Okay, I get it. I agree. It has to be a certain level of professionalism,
There
even in defeat.
Even in defeat. I mean, when you win, I mean, we could all remember him. Just 2 years ago, they're killing, destroying everybody they play, and they're dabbing and they're dancing and having a good time. But as soon as he loses a game, it's like he's just a totally different person. He's so disengaged. And it's just like, that's a part of him. I want him to mature more as a quarterback and actually be the leader of the team and be the face of the franchise by actually doing his job.
He could just realize that, you know, they're paying for them to lose. Like the Super Bowl.
I'm not going to go there with that. I mean, Denver beat them. They still had a chance to win that game at the end. He looked at the ball on the ground as he fumbled it, and then he wanted no parts of that football.
No, what he saw when he looked at that ball during that fumble was that, dang, they paid me this much to make sure that they get the ball right here. I gotta let it go. No, money talks.
I disagree. But my thing is, it's just I would like to see more professionalism and maturity
definitely
when it comes to that. I just feel like that. I mean, and I do give him a lot of slack sometimes because coming out of high school, he never lost a football game. Coming out of college, he never lost a football game. So he didn't really start losing a lot of games until he got on the NFL level. So it is an adjustment when you're constantly used to winning all the time. Yeah. And then you start to lose, and it's just more of, I don't want to talk right. I don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with this. I don't have to deal with it.
I mean, well, now that you said that, I didn't know about that he never really lost, you know, coming up through those two, you know, kind of stepping stones into the NFL. So, I mean, kind of, in a sense, he's not used to it.
But, I mean, eventually now he's been in the league for, 4 or 5 years now. It's time to really start to mature and understand that's a part of your job.
How long?
You're the quarterback. Everybody's going to want to talk to you.
I mean, but how long do you think it takes for you to have to get comfortable with losing?
No one is ever comfortable with losing, but it's just the fact of you still can go out there and give a statement and just be like, hey, they were better than us. Or tonight we just didn't have it. Or we didn't execute well tonight.
No, I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you. I'm just kind of advocating for both sides.
But I think sometimes he feels like they're attacking him. And I feel like in a sense, now a couple of weeks ago with the whole thing, the comments he made about the lady reporter.
Yeah, which was nothing.
That was blown out of proportion.
Oh, definitely.
But he's already scrutinizing the media enough, so don't give them more to talk about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even though I think he probably could care less, but I mean, at the end of the day, just be a professional. At the end of the day.
Okay, I can see that. And like I said, that was the game, and Carolina pulled out an easy win, a rough-looking win, but a win nonetheless, 17-3. Only 2 touchdowns scored this entire game.
I think they're 5-3 now.
Yep, 5-3.
Tampa Bay is 2-5. Man,
unfortunate
what's going on
performance.
With Winston and the Bucks.
Yeah, I really thought they would be a little bit better than how they are right now. So.
Yeah, I mean, he had 21 for 38 in the game. 210 yards, 2 interceptions.
Yep.
I mean, that tells the story right there.
3 total turnovers for the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yep.
2 interception and a forced fumble. So, yeah, like you said, that pretty much tells the whole story of it. So,
Yep.
Next game I have on the card is the Minnesota Vikings versus the Cleveland Browns, which we both pretty much easily agree that the Vikings would come out as winners on this, and they did, winning 33-16. Case Keenum having a pretty good night, 27 for 43, 288 yards, 2 touchdowns, even with 1 interception. And Adam Thielen, I think I said his name right. You're going to realize I have a problem with pronouncing certain names that I don't know. But he went 5 receptions for 98 yards and 1 touchdown. How do you feel about this game, man?
Well, for me, it wasn't even though the score looked as if it was a convincing win, which it turned out to be, but it didn't start off that way for Minnesota. It was a slow start. Actually, Deshaun Kaiser from the Browns actually had a great half of football, but we know in football a great half doesn't always mean you're going to win.
Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah. 3 quarters doesn't always mean you're going to win. Sometimes 4 quarters doesn't if you have to go to overtime. Yeah. But anyway, Kaiser went 8 of 10 in the first half, 102 yards passing. He had a rushing touchdown in the first half.
Yep.
And then it was just kind of like the tale of 2 halves for him. The second half, he struggled to complete any pass more than 5 yards downfield versus the Vikings defense. And his final stats ended up being 18 out of 34 for 179 yards passing. So if you 8 of 10 in the first half for 102, second half 10 of 24 for almost 80 yards, if that.
Yeah.
So you could tell how his performance kind of dwindled down. And the Browns defense actually challenged Keenum in this game to throw the ball more. Pretty much they want to take the run game away. We know Minnesota has always been known as a pretty good team that can run the football with Dalvin Cook. We saw Latavius Murray have a big game last week, and then we've seen Jerick McKinnon have some nice games this season as well. But they only held him to 88 yards rushing, but Case Keenum threw for more than 285 yards, and that pretty much, you got to pick your poison at that point. Okay, We're going to take the run game away, challenge Keenum to throw it more, and Keenum answered the challenge and led his team to a victory. He had a lot of hookups with Thielen, as you called out. So the Vikings, 6-2 right now. And as I said last week, the way your little Lions look right now with the $1 million Matthew, who I disagree with all the money they've given him. But you guys will know if you follow us how I feel about that situation of Matthew Stafford. But
it's underrated.
But anyway, Green Bay with the injury to Aaron Rodgers, the Bears being who they are, Minnesota has a great chance to win this division and be a top 3, top 4 seed in the NFC.
Definitely. Like you said, if the Lions can't figure it out, because
$1 million Matthew, man.
You gotta believe it. You gotta believe in Matt. You gotta believe.
I don't believe in it, man. And I'll tell you a little bit more as we go further along. We'll get to the Lions a little bit later, but Vikings 33-16. This game was actually played in London, so it went across the water there to go over there and hand to Cleveland.
But a lot of games in London. I think they have a London game almost every week now.
It seems like I think they're trying to really build on that market. They've been doing it for the past couple of years now. It kind of went from at one time just one game a season. Now it's like 4 games, I think, where they do the London games. I don't know how successful it is in the NFL. Every time I look in the stadium, when they show the highlight, it looks like they're packed.
Right.
It's people there intrigued by it. So hopefully the NFL the market is growing over there in England.
Okay.
Next game I have down is the New York Jets hosting the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons finally put an end to this losing streak. So now they're 4-3 on the season. They were on the verge of possibly losing, 3 in a row here.
Yeah.
It's pretty poor weather in this game. The rain came down. The Falcons being a dome team, sometimes when you take a dome team outside in the element, sometimes it comes down to just trying to find a way to win. It was a back and forth game. Matt Ryan was 18 of 29, 254 yards passing, 2 touchdowns on the day. Josh McCown was 26 of 33, 257 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. This was a much-needed win for Atlanta to keep pace in the NFC South, given the fact of how well the Saints have been playing as of late. Carolina's been up and down. So that division could be decided by those 3 teams. And so Atlanta, I didn't think they could afford to lose another game to get behind the 8 ball there in the NFC South. But a lot of times, a lot of my friends and football fans that I know love to pick at the AFC East, me being a Patriots fan. Oh, you guys don't play anybody. You guys don't play anybody. The Falcons were 1-3 versus the AFC East this year. This was their only win versus any team from the AFC East. So they were beat by the Dolphins. They were beat by the Bills. They were beat by my Patriots. And the Jets came pretty close here to beat them too. So they almost got swept by the AFC East division.
I mean, the Falcons aren't the Super Bowl run team that they were just last year. Whatever, because they didn't lose really anybody and just converted from last season to this season. But something's off since that comeback. They're not there. Like, something's not in them right now. So I mean, even though, like you said, they're 1-3 against the AFC East, I'm not surprised considering how they've performed just lately. Not saying that they still aren't a good team. They're not a playoff caliber team, but they're just not as dominant looking as they did last season. So, so it can go either way. Not to take away from the AFC East. I mean, not to take away from.
How dare you downplay the AFC East, man?
Especially the Patriots over there and with some good competition. I mean, the Jets were on a good rally to start off the year. So, but I just wanted to make that known that in general, regardless of what division that they're playing against, the Atlanta Falcons as a whole just doesn't look cut to make another Super Bowl role as dominantly as they did last year.
Okay. I guess I can respect that, but I'm giving props to the AFC East.
Yo, definitely. They deserve it.
The powder puff division anymore, as they try to say. Next game I have is the Raiders after that thriller of a victory over the Chiefs last week on Thursday Night Football. They traveled to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Again, another rainy game here. Most of the Northeast in weather this past Sunday was a lot of rain in the area, as we saw in a lot of games. The Bills take it 34-14 very convincingly. Tyrod Taylor, 20 of 27, 165 yards. LaShawn McCoy had a great day on the ground. 27 carries, 151 yards, and a rushing TD in the game. We do know this was the game that Beast Mode Marshawn Lynch had to serve his suspension as last week.
For the referee.
The field and made contact with an official, so he was not available.
Darn Marshawn.
For the Raiders. Derek Carr for the Raiders, 31 out of 49, 313 yards passing. Did throw a touchdown, but did throw 2 interceptions in the game. Right now, this is an uphill battle for the Raiders, and I kind of felt this is why I picked Buffalo to win this game. We both agreed on you took Oakland.
I took Oakland.
We agreed on Atlanta, I think.
Yeah, we agreed.
We agreed on Atlanta, but we disagreed here. I took Buffalo. I just felt like that win last week the Raiders had. I mean, it was a good win, but I didn't think it would carry over to this week. I mean, Buffalo's been that trap team this year. We've seen them beat the Falcons. We've seen them beat some pretty solid teams. We saw them give Carolina a tough game. So the Bills are a tough team, man, and I'm not saying that they are a legit contender, but you are what your record says you are.
Yeah.
You're 6-2 right now. Who would have thought Buffalo would be 6-2 at this point in the season?
It's true.
Halfway through, looking pretty good. McCoy looks like he's a different player here than what he was prior to coming there. And for the Raiders right now, it's just an uphill battle for them for the rest of the year. What do you think?
No, I agree. Let me do this. I'm just so disappointed at Oakland.
It's the Raiders, though.
But they had so much promise last year. If anybody, like I said, if you followed us when we started this, I had real high hopes for Oakland. I even argued that if Derek Carr didn't get injured last year, I argued that they were possibly Super Bowl contending team. just considering how well of a streak that they went on last year. So for them to see them drop to being a 3-5 team right now, it's really just disappointing. And it really seems, to me, it feels like they're beating themselves more so than anything else. Not to take away from how good these teams are, because the Bills are 5-2. I mean, like you said, they're a trap team. They've been shocking a lot of teams right now that undercards them. And I want to say I think the Bills are the team that recently, whenever the sports media like ESPN, they bet against them and they win, they respond to them on social media and jokingly stop playing us like we're just this throwaway team. So, but for the Raiders, I'm just disappointed, man. I really expected more, and I was hoping for more. Even though the Raiders aren't my team, I just wanted to see a continuation of their streak. I was thinking this is the old school dominant Raiders that all the old heads talked about. I was like, I want to see that happen again.
Just win, baby.
Right.
What Al Davis used to say. Yeah, I mean 3-5. I mean they're not mathematically eliminated, but they can't ill afford to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, they need to go on a nice little run here to close out the year. Maybe win 7 of their next 8 to give themselves a solid chance. That's a lot to try to do, especially on the back half of the NFL season where teams are kind of jostling for playoff positioning and stuff like that. So it's just going to be tough the rest of the way for them to try to save what's left of their season. And
to say this on this game in particular, they beat them on total yards. They had 367, while the Bills had 331. But they gave away 4 turnovers, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, and that's why I went on saying that they're beating themselves. They just. That's it, man. That's all I can say about the Raiders. Good win for the Bills.
Yeah, they're going to be dangerous. I'm anxious to see this Patriot Bills, both of those games this season when these two teams hook up for the first time.
Yeah.
Next game I have, if you haven't hopped on this train yet, you need to. The New Orleans Saints and the Chicago Bears. Saints win it 20-12. The Bears have kind of been a trappy team this year as well. We've seen them beat the Ravens. We've seen them beat the Panthers. We've seen them beat the Steelers.
Yeah.
So, contending teams. The Bears are 3-5 after the loss. The Saints moved to 5-2. And who can remember way back when the Saints were 0-2, and now they've rallied off 5 straight wins, the hottest team in the NFL right now in terms of consecutive wins in a row.
This is true.
I think they're sleepers in the NFC, man. Drew Brees in this game, 23 of 28, 299 yards. I just want to say 300. I just don't like 99.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say 300 yards. I'll give him an extra yard. Mark Ingram had 75 rushing yards in the game, a touchdown. Young quarterback for the Bears, Trubisky, went 14 out of 32, 164 yards, an interception. Jordan Howard did have a good day on the ground, 23 carries, 102 yards. But I did feel the Saints would win this game. I actually thought they would win it more convincingly than what they did. But, again, they did get the win. Drew Brees and company looking really good. 5-2. They're leading the NFC South division. I'm just really anxious to see how this division is going to turn out with the Panthers, with the Falcons all being there. They're going to have to play each other a couple of times down the stretch to decide who's going to win this division. But I have my money on New Orleans right now. What do you got?
Yeah. The Saints have been a really good team, man. They, like you said, they were 0-2, and like you said, they went on a 5-0 streak. Looking at the first 2 games, I really threw them away, honestly. I would be the first to admit that seeing their performance to start off the season, I was like, this isn't a team to expect much from. And considering that their win streak, I don't know where it puts them. I'm not totally sold on what they're going to be.
Okay.
But Drew Brees, we know this is a Super Bowl quarterback, so
Super Bowl winning head coach too, and Sean Payton.
Exactly. Man. So you can't take away anything from them, but
their defense has truly been playing really well over the last several weeks. They've been taking the ball away, stopping other teams. So, most of the time when you used to think of the Saints, you always thought about this high-octane offense up and down the field, throwing the ball with little to no defense, just shootouts, and basically winning a 38-35 game or 41-38 game, whatever the final score, a lot of points. They score a lot of points, but they also give up a lot of points. But this year, they have looked very good on both sides of the ball. They're running the ball well with Ingram and Kamara. Breeze is still looking like he's in top form. And then the defense is playing well too. So you're doing well in all three phases of the game. It's going to populate into football wins for you, and that's what's happening for them right now, 5-2.
Yeah, definitely.
What's your next game you got on your schedule there?
I got my next game. I got the Indianapolis Colts going into Cincinnati to play the Bengals. And it was a better game than we expected, but both of us did agree on the Bengals winning this game, and they pulled it out 24-23 in a close game. What was I about to say? I was about to say, I forget. I always forget his first name.
Dalton?
Andy Dalton. I was about to say.
You was about to say Alex Dalton?
Something. I think I was thinking of Alex Smith, but I don't know. Either way, Dalton, he went 17 for 29, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Joe Mixon, 11 carries for 18 yards, but 3 receptions for 91 yards.
Yeah, Joe Mixon has got a lot of promise there for them, especially in the running back situation with Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill. I mean, Mixon still hasn't really taken over the top back role. They still utilize all three of them. Again, as you know how I feel about Andy Dalton, just kind of more of the underachieving quarterback.
Yeah.
And every week I'm calling for Marvin Lewis's head. Whoever can cut off Marvin Lewis's head and bring it to me on a platter, I will be so grateful to you. This guy has to leave Cincinnati. If he does not make the playoffs, or if he does make the playoffs and he doesn't win a game with this team, he has to be fired. How can you be 0 for 5 in the playoffs and still be a head coach in the NFL right now? How is that possible? I don't care if you're African American, if you're Latino American, if you're, you're white, whatever your
Caucasian American,
Asian American, whoever. That's no excuse for you to still be a coach in this league.
Well,
I'm not saying he can't coach in this league, but a head coach of that.
Well, look at the 49ers,
franchise.
though.
Huh?
Do you remember what I said? The 49ers in the last, now it's over 20 games now, but he's only won one game.
Oh, but that's the guy with the Browns.
Right.
And he comes off the Marvin Lewis coaching tree.
Oh.
He was the Hugh Jackson is who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He was I want to say he was one of the coordinators there in Cincinnati. Now he's the coach of Cleveland. He's 1-23 as their head coach. Okay, when do we say win?
Right.
I mean, when do we say it's over? Okay, one game out of 24 you've won.
You gotta
go.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get to finish the season.
Right. Yeah,
now,
definitely.
I mean, it's not going to get any better as we see. I know Marvin Lewis. I respect him. He's a heck of a defensive-minded coach. But I just feel like just by his resume alone and things that he's accomplished, he's got to go. But Jacoby Brissett, 25 of 39, 233 yards.
That's your boy.
Yeah, he comes off the Patriot Tree of Life.
The Tree of Life?
Yeah, and also I forgot to mention Ryan Mallett as well. He was a backup in New England for a little while there, too. So our quarterbacks are kind of spaced throughout the league here.
Case Keenum.
Anyway, Brissett, 25 of 39, 233 yards, 2 TDs in the pit. Jack Doyle, the tight end for the Colts, had a pretty good game. 12 receptions, 121 yards, and a touchdown in the game. Colts fall to 2-5. Bengals improved to 3-4.
With a great win at the end of towards the end of the game, Carlos Dunlap with the 16-yard interception return to give them the lead and the win.
That was the costly interception that Brissett had, pretty much cost him the game. Situation with the Colts. I don't know when Andrew Luck's going to come back. I wouldn't want to come back at this point with a 2-5 team. If anything, they may bring him back the latter part of the season, maybe just to get him some reps, to get him back into football shape. But I didn't anticipate him being out this long.
Me neither.
I really didn't. So I don't know what Chuck Pagano's job security is going to look like in the NFL. I mean, with the Colts after this season, will Jim Irsay give him a pass because, hey, he didn't have Andrew Luck for most of the season? Do we allow him to come back for another season and coach? So I just don't know. But the Colts have had bad luck ever since they tried to rat the Patriots out with this Deflategate. It's been bad karma for them. And what's happened for New England since Deflategate? We've won 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years, and what have the Colts done? Nothing.
Oh.
Bad karma for you guys, and I'm happy for it.
Wow. That was some strong emotions from you right there.
And I already didn't like the Colts from the years of Peyton Manning and the Patriots, you know, going back and forth when he was with the Colts and stuff. But then afterward, it was just like, so you try to say we're cheating, we're sucking air out of the football, and
I mean,
and the first half of that game was when the bad balls were used, so to speak, 17-7. So in the second half, the right size balls were used. We outscored them 28-0, won the AFC Championship game 45-7. The Patriots could have been throwing beach balls. We still would have won that game, regardless of what was going to happen. The Colts were not beating us on that night. And what has happened to the Colts since then, and what has happened for the Patriots? No, I got real applause for you. I don't need your dry clap.
Okay. Say no more. All right.
Okay,
so.
I'm off that rant now. Okay. I get a little passionate when you try to come at my team.
I see that, man.
And we see what karma have fallen upon the Colts.
Look, speaking of the Patriots, the next game I'm going to get into is the LA Chargers trying to get a win over the New England Patriots, but the Patriots held on to capitalize on this game, and the Chargers' mistakes, winning 21-13. It was a pretty decent win for the Patriots. Tom Brady, 32 for 47, 333 yards with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Good to see the quarterback can throw without throwing an interception, albeit it being Tom Brady. We got on the receiving end, we have with 85 yards, we have James White getting 85 yards and only 5 receptions. And like I said, they had a good game and pulled it out and held on to win. On the other side of the ball, Phillip Rivers, one of my favorite regular season quarterbacks, because that's pretty much it.
Probably he doesn't hardly know how to do that too well.
Yeah, it's not looking that great for him. He goes up and down now. 17 for 30, 212 yards, 1 touchdown with 1 interception. We have Gordon for 14 carries, 132 yards, 1 touchdown. Melvin Gordon, I had to make sure his name was right. And in their receiving side, we have Travis Benjamin, 5 receptions for 64 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, they started the Chargers started this game off good. I mean, Melvin Gordon had an 87-yard run. I mean, that felt like that was it. But the second quarter was pretty much a dominant performance by the Patriots. I mean, Ron Gronkowski with the touchdown, then Travis Benjamin tackling for a safety, and then Steven Gronkowski with 2 field goals, giving them a 15 points just in the second quarter alone, and that pretty much sealed the game itself, besides the Chargers coming back and getting a good touchdown run touchdown pass to Travis Benjamin towards the end of the game, but they couldn't convert on the 2-point conversion, and the Patriots sealed it again with another field goal to just add a little cherry on top of their victory.
And it wasn't really it's a win, but there's a lot of things, and I'm very overcritical of my team. They could have played a whole lot better. I mean, Brady did have the 300 yards passing, but the defense looked really good. I mean, I know at the beginning of the season, we were giving up 300 yards passing to almost every quarterback we went against. And over the past 2 games, we've been able to hold the last 2 quarterbacks we faced in Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan. 2 pretty good quarterbacks, I would say, under 300 yards passing, which is good. This loss snaps a 3-game win streak by the Chargers. We know they started the season 0-4, and they won 3 in a row. They were trying to get back to 500. But they fall to 3-5 now. In the last 3 games, going back to the New England defense, we've only given up 14 points a game to the opponent. At one point, we were giving up close to 34 points a game.
Wow.
So now it looks like things are starting to come around for the Patriots at the halfway point of the season. But some breaking news out of Foxborough. Traded the backup quarterback, Jimmy G.
Jimmy G goes to the 49ers.
To the 0-8 49ers.
For a second-round pick.
What an inheritance. But I still think that's going to be a good situation for him.
You think so?
I just thought, being a Patriots fan, I thought they were just grooming him for whenever Brady retires, he's going to take over and lead the franchise. But I think by making this move, because you've noticed they traded Jacoby Brissett away early in the year.
Yeah.
He was the backup, third string pretty much, and then Garoppolo now is gone. Now, right now, the Patriots don't have a backup quarterback on their roster.
They're going to get Colin Kaepernick.
The Patriots don't have a backup quarterback on their roster right now.
That's true. That's true.
I love Kaepernick, but I don't think he'll I don't think they'll pull the trigger on that.
Yeah,
but now this is what I foresee. So now you've given away a lot of young talent if you're the Patriots. I think this is Bill Belichick saying, me and Brady riding out on this white horse together. Once it's over, me and him, we're done. I'm not going to invest or develop or try to groom talent anymore.
You're going to do that to your Patriots,
I'm just going to... I think I have 2 years tops with Brady and Belichick. I think the next 2-3 years max, Brady's going to retire. And Belichick and him. I think they have to leave together.
But for them to not have, like you said, a quarterback that they're going to mold in just some kind of example of Tom Brady, that seems like a low blow to the Patriots.
I don't think it is. We've given them more than 15, 16 years, some longer than that, of just countless winning seasons.
But to just throw them in the pit,
championships. AFC Championship, Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So it's just like, at this point, I'm just going to finish it out.
And then just
try to win what I can win now.
Throw them in the trash.
I'm not saying they're throwing them away, but I just feel like, what were the Patriots before Belichick and Brady got there? Look at what their success has been the last 15, 16, 17 years being together. So I just feel like now it's getting to a point where Belichick is kind of like, hey, maybe I start grooming the next person to take my job when I leave, which I really honestly believe is going to be somebody from that staff that's already on his coaching staff. Maybe should be Josh McDaniels, if anybody, the offensive coordinator for the Patriots. But I just feel right now he just is like, I'm not investing time into this younger talent. I'm just going to WWE it and just bury this team on my way. I'm just kidding.
I was like, man.
But I just feel like, just from seeing that, I just feel like they're gonna ride out in the sunset together.
Okay.
Because I really thought Garoppolo was going to be the guy that they built this franchise around at the Tom Brady level. Yeah. But I'm glad we got the win. It wasn't a pretty win. Gostowski pretty much sealed it for us. Did miss 2 field goals, 4 out of 6 on field goal attempts. So still was enough to get the job done.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of the fact that we won. We're 6-2 right now. We've won 4 in a row. Battling for that number 1 seed in the AFC right now is where we're at.
Yeah. The next game I have is the San Francisco 49ers, the winless 49ers, as you stated earlier, 0-8. Because of this, they were locked in a cage with some hungry Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles 6-1 coming into this game, toppled them 33-10, which are now 7-1. Carson Wentz had a good game, 18 of 32, 211 yards, 1 touchdown, albeit 1 interception. On the receiving end, we have Alshon Jeffrey. Mm-hmm. That's right, 2 receptions for 62 yards and 1 touchdown. On the other end, you got C.J. Beathard. Beathard. I was about to say, I'd be honest, I didn't know how to say that. 17 of 36, 167 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and also rushed for 40 yards and 6 carries. How do you feel about this? I mean, I didn't expect anything more. Both of us agreed that Philly would beat this team. It's just to me, it's just an easy win, honestly. How do you feel about it?
I honestly feel that it is. I expect Philly to kind of win this game the way they did. We do know the 49ers have lost 5 of their 8 losses have been by 3 points or less, so I can't really bash them too bad. They have been a little competing in some of these games, and then some of these games have just been blowouts.
Well, I mean, I guess this kind of shows how dominant the Eagles really are.
Yeah, the Eagles look really good. I mean, we saw Dallas dominate 49ers as well, pretty much close to the same score.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Philly's just looking really good right now, 7-1. I think they're going to be, if not the top seed in the NFC, they're going to be one of those top 2 teams that get that first round bye in the playoffs. Carson Wentz is still looking really good. Now with the addition of Ajayi, I'm anxious to see how he's going to fit into everything there. 49ers now have Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the quarterback of their future. So I'm anxious to see how they're going to build around him. But Philly just did what everyone expected them to do in this game. There's really not much to talk about here. I mean, they handled their business.
Definitely. So what's the next game you have on your card, my brother?
Pretty much probably the game of the week here. Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
I stole your thunder there. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I know how you feel about the Texans versus the Seattle Seahawks. And I will say this. I was very much surprised at how well he played against that defense.
Yeah.
Because the reason why, because in one of my fantasy football leagues, I sat Deshaun Watson because I said he's playing Seattle's defense. I'm not going to put him in my lineup this week, and he scored 45 points, and I lost. And the 45 points would have made the difference for me.
That's what you get.
Yeah, I didn't believe, man.
That is what you get.
I figured he would play okay, but I didn't think he would have such a monster day. Really, it was pretty much a back and forth day between him and Russell Wilson. They put up some huge numbers in this game, a lot of points. I didn't think this game would be a shootout. To be honest with you, with 2 of the better defenses in the league with Houston and Seattle, I didn't think this would be a back and forth game. But when you have running quarterbacks, elusive quarterbacks who can extend plays and keep, plays alive, Deshaun Watson, 19 for 30, 402 yards, 4 touchdowns, did throw 3 picks in the game. So I think he became the fastest player to throw for more than 17 touchdowns in a 7-game span.
Oh, wow.
So he threw he's got 17 touchdowns on the season. No, excuse me, actually 18 touchdowns on the season in a 7-game span.
That's awesome.
So that's the fastest person to 18 touchdowns in a 7-game span.
It's a bright future for Deshaun.
Yeah, that's pretty big deal stuff. And he's been playing some really good competition, while he's doing that. Against the Patriots, had a tough game against Tom Brady, pushing Brady to the brink. And then he played well against Kansas City, like how they were going back and forth with the Chiefs a few weeks ago. And then now here against Seattle. So Houston has a bright future with this guy at their quarterback, as their quarterback. 8 carries in the game for him, 67 yards. Monster day. This Clemson connection with Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins, 8 receptions for 224 yards and a touchdown. 8 catches and 224 yards?
Yeah.
Against Seattle. This is
Seattle.
The Legion of Doom or Boom or whatever they call themselves. So that's very eye-popping for me to see that stat. And then with Russell Wilson, 26 of 41, 452 yards. 4 touchdowns, a pick in the game, 4 carries for 30 yards in the game. And Tyler Lockett had 6 receptions in the game for 121 yards. This was a back-and-forth game. It came pretty much down to the final seconds of the game. And Russell Wilson found Jimmy Graham for the go-ahead touchdown at the end of the game there to put Seattle ahead. What did you think of this game, man?
I mean, it was a good shootout, like you said. Even though to say that it to be a shootout, the Seahawks scoring started with Earl Thomas having the 78 interception, pick 6. And that's how they got on the board starting it off. But without that, it was a 14-0 start. Well, 14-point start for the Texans, scoring both before and after that situation. But like you said, then it just became square on shootout, ending it with, like I said, Jimmy Graham. Before that, though, the Texans took the lead with a DeAndre Hopkins 72-yard touchdown pass. So, I mean, like you said, just it was phenomenal for him to just have 224 yards and just 8 receptions. But, like you said, the Seahawks, their defense did cause a lot of turnovers. Well, just those 3 interceptions, but that made a difference considering one was a pick 6. And that makes the difference. That makes the difference, man. And then, of course, for their total yards, I mean, it was the Texans had it. I mean, 509 total yards while the Seahawks had 479. But like you said, the defense is what helped that win.
And I think Will Fuller, is it the 5th? I think is what he called.
I think it's the 5th.
Yeah, something like that. He's got a V on the back, so I think that's Roman numeral for 5.
Yep.
He had the touch. Did he have 2 touchdowns or 1? I think he had 2 touchdown grabs in that game.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah.
59-yard pass to start off the game.
So, yeah, he's coming on strong, too. I mean, for the receiving core of the Texans. But, I mean, Russell Wilson's putting up some monster numbers over the last few weeks. I still not truly sold on Seattle as of
Me
yet.
neither.
But I still respect them, you know. I think they're still going to be in the conversation of things in the NFC, but I just look at it as I need to see a little bit more. Houston's been that dangerous team for everybody this year, so that has faced them. So Deshaun Watson is doing some really good things in his to start his career off as a rookie season, doing some great things. That was probably the game of the week right there, going back and forth the way that they did,
to say the least.
So Houston is now 3-4. Seattle is 5-2.
Yep.
All right.
What's
Next
the next game?
game, America's team, Dallas Cowboys, going to go into Landover, Maryland at FedEx Field to take on the Washington Redskins. Both of these two teams came in this game at 3-3 on the season, battling for second place right now in the NFC East Division, where the Eagles look to fly away with it. Ezekiel Elliott, we know he's been going through a lot of controversy with this 6-game suspension. If the suspension is upheld, the suspension is on, it's back off again.
Right.
So it's been a very controversial few weeks to start the year for the Cowboys. But despite of it, they still win this contest 33-19. Zeke had 33 carries, 150 yards rushing on the day with 2 touchdowns. Dallas's defense and special teams played really well in the game. That's pretty much the difference of the game. They had a blocked field goal for a return, and their defense forced 3 turnovers on the Redskins. Prescott was 14 of 22, 143 yards. Kirk Cousins was 26 of 39, 263 yards, had a touchdown and a pick in the game. Jamison Crowder had 9 receptions for 123 yards. So Dallas moves to 4-3. Washington falls to 3-4. So right now with this situation with Zeke, right now, today I thought the NFL Players Association, in response to the injunction being denied on yesterday, had 24 hours to respond to see if Zeke would be available to play this week, to see if they can get an appeal. I'm not sure if that went through or not. I'll have to do some more research on that. But regardless of if it is or not, 6 games could be in the near future where the Cowboys don't have Ezekiel Elliott. So I'm pretty sure that's gonna, for those of you who play fantasy football, possible Alfred Morris, or we don't know what Darren McFadden's status is as well. So who's gonna carry the load if Zeke is out? His production is huge, so it's hard to replace a guy like Zeke. That offense, a lot of people said, well, Dallas has a good offensive line. Any running back should be able to come in there and run the ball well against them. Agreed, but at the end of the day, Zeke is a special kind of running back, and his presence will be missed if he has to miss those 6 games. But Cowboys do still get the win in spite of all the distractions of this suspension, 33-19 over the Redskins. And for the Redskins, for me, it's just been one of those teams. They've been up and down. They played well some games not so well. It's just an up and down season for them. Kirk Cousins, we know that they continue to franchise tag him. every season, it seems, before giving him that max deal. I guess they want to see more out of him and see if he can actually lead this team, and turn this franchise around and actually start winning some of these big regular season games and actually start winning some of these playoff games when he goes to the playoffs.
And looking up what you were talking about, the injunction and Ezekiel's possibility on playing, CBS Sports has released an article about 8 hours ago saying that he was denied his preliminary injunction, and as of now, he will be missing the next 6 games, which will be against the Chiefs, Falcons, Eagles, Chargers, Redskins, and the Giants, and he will be eligible for a return December 17th for their second to the last game, Week 15 against the Raiders.
Wow. So that's huge.
Yeah.
And you kind of wish you'd go ahead and get it out of the way.
Yeah, I wish it would have started off the season like I thought it was.
Yeah, and then just do it that way. And then you're there at the most important time of the season where you're trying to fight for playoff positioning and all this. Because those are some tough teams. Some of those teams are playoff caliber teams that you called out that they're going to have to face. So, we're just anxious to see how things are going to turn up for the Cowboys now. It's going to put a lot more pressure on Prescott. Will they throw it more, given the fact that they're going to miss Zeke's presence, or what will they do going forward for the Cowboys? But they're 4-3 right now. At least they're in a pretty good spot. But in 6 weeks, a lot can change.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess I'll go into this game.
Yes, I want you to go into it.
Pittsburgh Steelers going to Detroit to beat up on Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions.
You said his name wrong. $1 million man. $1 million man.
$1 million man Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions toppled them 20-15.
What was that score again?
20 Pittsburgh, 15 Detroit.
Oh, so they lost again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they were 3-1 at one time.
The stats are Matthew Stafford 27 for 45, 423 yards. Great passing game for Matthew. On the other end, you have Ben Roethlisberger.
I don't see a lot of touchdowns on that.
Ben Roethlisberger, 17 for 31, 317 yards with 1 touchdown, evened out by 1 interception. Yeah, he doesn't have an interception. Matthew Stafford doesn't have an interception. Anyway.
Not many touchdowns either.
Nor touchdowns, whatever. Marvin Jones Jr. on the Lions had a good game, 6 receptions for 128 yards receiving. But on the opposite end, we have Juju Smith-Schuster. 7 receptions, 193 yards, 1 touchdown. Le'Veon Bell having the better game on the rushing between the two teams with 25 carries, 76 yards, and 1 touchdown.
And the thing with Schuster, this was just he's been playing well. He set an NFL record, 4 touchdowns before the age of 21 in this game.
Wow. And
then he had a 97-yard touchdown reception in the game, after not 1 but 2 turnover on down situations for the Detroit Lions and Matthew. Well, we'll get more on $1 Million Man in a minute, but I want to spend some time here with Juju Schuster here. 97 yards from the 3-yard line, back up against the wall. Roethlisberger just throws it up, and he knew he was going to Schuster the whole time because they broke it down on the replay. Like, he knew that, hey, Schuster, you got a nice little matchup here. We're going to go for this. And he turned on the burners. 3 Lions in pursuit of him. They could not catch him. And I thought Lions run pretty fast. I thought Lions are supposed to be like...
Ooh, boy, you was hilarious.
But they couldn't catch him, man. That Schuster turned on the burners, man, and he was gone. Almost 200 yards receiving in the game. That's a huge performance from that young talent. They got some good stuff going there with him. He could be the person stepping up, given the fact that Martavis Bryant has been benched. for the last couple of weeks, speaking out about he's unhappy and and his feelings about
not getting the ball and stuff.
Not getting the ball in Pittsburgh. So
even saying he wanted to be traded at one point.
He's asking for a trade and everything. So if that's the case, and Schuster continues to play like this, along already with Antonio Bryant, that's two really good quality receivers to have, for a passing attack. And as you said, Le'Veon Bell, just not a 100-yard day for him, but he was effective enough to still get into the end zone and get 76 yards on the ground. Yeah. But now,
go ahead and
$1 million Matthew.
Here we go.
Highest paid quarterback in the league.
Let it go.
The quarterback's job is to drive the team down the field, come up with different ways to put the ball in the end zone. And he failed to do that this week. And it wasn't like they worked close to the end zone. They were there several times, right on the doorstep of the end zone, and they just could not find a way to get it in. And and if I'm the owner of the Lions, I'm sitting back. I just wrote this big check for this guy, giving him my seal of approval. And it's just the same old Lions. 400 yards is nice. But, this was a game. This was a winnable game for them. This was a winnable game for the Lions. They had it. But he just couldn't. Just like when they played the Falcons a couple weeks ago. Right there at the end zone, in the clutch moments, this is where you make your money. This is where you make those millions of dollars. This is what they pay you to do. You're the guy that puts the team over. And Matthew just continues to come up so small. He's just like the Cowardly Lion from the Wizard of Oz. It's just like, put him up.
Wow.
And he's just like, you're a lion, dude. Act like you're a lion. And Matthew Stafford, I don't get me wrong, he's a good talent. He can play, he can throw the ball, he can do some great things. But as I said, I don't know if he was worth that money because a lot of his career he had Megatron. And now without him, it's a very dark and cloudy and rainy situation right now.
Adding on to what D. Moody is saying, they did go 0-5 in the red zone and also 0-2 for fourth down efficiently, so giving them 2 turnovers on downs, adding on to their 1 fumble.
Yeah.
So,
these are games you have. This is where you make your money.
Yeah.
This is where you show. This is your proving ground here. And he had really good opportunities this season versus Matt Ryan and Ben Roethlisberger, 2 the well-known quarterbacks around the league, in your home building, and still unable to get the job done.
Go ahead and end on Monday.
Didn't look that well against the Saints and Drew Brees a couple weeks ago.
So what was Monday Night Football?
Monday night? I was still on Sunday night.
Huh?
I wasn't done.
Are you sure?
Oh, you want me to move on? Okay. I won't crucify Stafford this week.
I appreciate it.
But yeah, $1 Million Man, looking more like $1,000 man.
Oh my!
But we're gonna move on. Monday Night Football.
Just you wait, sir.
Dun, 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 dun. But it was the Chiefs and the Broncos here. Divisional rivals here. Just a horrid night for the Broncos. Kind of just like another quarterback we just talked about.
Oh, wow. 5 turnovers for the Chiefs.
Yeah, 5 turnovers for the Chiefs. 3 interceptions, had a fumble recovery. Travis Kelce had a big game, 7 receptions, 133 yards and a touchdown in the game. Trevor Siemian, just not a good night for him. And one of his interceptions was just such a bonehead interception. This kid is rolling out to his right. And anybody knows, if you play the quarterback position, the worst thing you ever want to do is throw the ball back across your body in the opposite direction. So that's like me rolling all the way over this way, then trying to throw it back this way. The accuracy of that throw is not going to be good because I'm already opposite of where I'm throwing it. And he threw it right to a Chiefs defense. I was like, oh my God, if it just can't get any worse, it just did. And Simeon was doing some good things early in the year, and it just seems like after that injury, it just seems like his play has really declined. They kept C.J. Anderson under 100 yards rushing in the game. Just total domination by the Chiefs defense. Alex Smith looked pretty decent. He didn't really have to do as much because the field goal kicker took care of most of that for him. Boddicker had 5 field goals in the game. So it's a 29-19 win. Broncos fall to 3-4. They have lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Right now. Below 500 right now in the AFC West. Well, it looks like the Chiefs they have a 3-game lead over every team in that division. They're 6-2, Broncos 3-4, Chargers 3-5, Raiders 3-5. So it looks like they're gonna cruise to win that division pretty easily if any of those bottom teams don't start to turn their season around.
Definitely.
What did you think of this game?
I mean, I was actually shocked that. Well, I shouldn't be completely shocked because the Broncos have some kind of defense. But Kareem Hunt, I mean, as breakout of a year as he started to have, for him to go 22 carries for only 46 yards was kind of depressing. And like you said, Alex Smith didn't have that phenomenal of a performance as well. It pretty much relied into the foot, rather, and say the hands of, but their kicker, and did a great job at pretty much, despite having maybe 1, 2, 4 touchdowns altogether. I mean, like you said, it was a pretty much a field goal kicking type of game.
Yeah.
So, and Marcus Peters started it off with a 45-yard fumble return for a touchdown. So
he did. So I mean, it's just pretty much dominance there by Kansas City. Denver's looking like they're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Right
now, so it's
good to see that Kansas City can score on all cylinders, though.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a good thing, just to see that their kicker can do his part. Like you said, in weeks before, you only have one job, so they're either going to be really good at it or have some problems with it. But it seems like Kansas City is one of the rare complete teams of the season, considering that their work shows it, being that they're 6-2 right now in the season. But that is it for NFL for Week 8. And like we stated at the beginning of this, D. Moody predicted almost 100%, going 12-1. So for our season of picks, he is now 72-47, while I am now 73-46. So he is literally one game behind me. And
if I would have got that Ravens and
if you would have got the
Ravens and the Dolphins, we'd have been sitting in a tie right now. But that's okay. It's okay. I had to let you live for another week.
Well, I appreciate.
The foot is on the throat right now.
Oh, is that it?
I have my foot on your throat right now. All I got to do is just put you out of your misery.
I don't know, man. I'm not letting you pass me. I refuse.
It's not a fact of you letting me. It's just that I'm going to do it.
Oh.
And again, and then my disclaimer for those of you who follow us and who have not, I started the season off pretty rough. I was 5-10.
Week 1, I was 12-3.
Week 1, 5-10. He had a 7-game lead on me right out of the gate to start the season, and each week I just continued to chop at the bit and just get closer and closer and closer. Halfway point now, just a 1-game lead. So 5-10 to start the season for me. And since then, it's just been me on fire.
It has.
Seriously.
It has. I have to give it to you. It really has been a
phenomenal. Pretty much, if you do the math, 67 and 37 for me since week 1. After a 5-10 start. For you, after 12-3, you've just gone 60 and 43. So, yeah, getting close there. Getting pretty close.
That's it, though. That's it. That's
wouldn't
where it stops right here.
It doesn't stop. You're right. This is where it stops for you being in the lead. And for the rest of the season, I'm going to have the lead. And
en contraire,
it's going to be a runaway from here on out.
En contraire.
Yeah.
I see a breakaway.
Yeah, in the future for me, right?
Oh, no, not for you.
Or you think it's going to be a breakaway?
Well, no, it will be a breakaway for you as you slowly go back down. Go back down that little ladder.
So basically I'm going to fall from grace.
You've gotten up here. You've smelled the mountaintops. You've witnessed the glory.
Peek of how it
exactly.
Now it's time to go back.
Now it's time. I think it's closing hours for you now. It's time to take it back on home.
We shall see. We shall see.
But before we get into our new power rankings, our top 5 for the week, while we were doing these recaps of the week, I want to notify some other trades that went on that were completed, seeing that today, Tuesday, was the deadline in the NFL, I believe. Mm-hmm. Some other trades, we have the left tackle Dwayne Brown has been traded to the Seahawks for cornerback Jeremy Lane, fifth round pick for 2018, and a second round pick for 2019. And for the Jaguars and the Bills, we have defensive tackle Marcel Darius going to the Jaguars for a 6th round pick next year. For the Jets and the 49ers, cornerback Rashard Robinson is now going to the Jets for a 5th round pick next year. And the most noticeable one, besides the Ajayi to the Eagles, is Kelvin Benjamin. It's going to the Bills for a 3rd and 7th round pick for next year. So
I think that's pretty good for the Bills.
Definitely.
I mean, after the injury for him a couple of years ago during Carolina's Super Bowl season, it seemed like when he came back, he just could never really get his footing back. He had some pretty decent games this year, but I just didn't really see him being the go-to guy in Carolina right now.
So you think this is a better result for the Bills or the Panthers?
I think so. Now they have a target, and really they don't really have a go-to receiver there. Most of the offense runs through LaShawn McCoy, and then you got the tight end for a while there. Charles Clay was doing some good things before his injury, but other than that, this gives Tyrod Taylor an opportunity to have like a possible deep threat down the field if Benjamin can fit into that offensive scheme.
Yeah.
And then for me, how I feel about the Garoppolo trade, I just feel like that's pretty good for the 49ers at this point. Really, they released Brian Hoyer, another Patriot quarterback off the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick tree of life, and so Brian Hoyer just can never find his footing anywhere.
Tree of life.
And then with the whole trade with what was the other trade you called out? You said it was
Dwayne Brown to the Seahawks for Jeremy Lane.
Yeah. Dwayne Brown is the tackle from Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And now that could be a big change and shift of things for Deshaun Watson and the Texans. And I really believe a lot of the reasoning for them trading him is because he was very vocal once their owner made the comment of you can't let the inmates run the run the prison. So at this point, he was very vocal on that. And I think that's why he got his ticket out of the door because of it. But I mean, at this point, I feel like if you can play for me on the field, as long as you show up on Sundays or whatever day we're playing, you can have your personal opinion of how you feel about anything that I say if I'm your owner. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with what he said. It was not good for him to say that.
That's pretty disrespectful.
Especially with the energy and the good enthusiasm you have going with this young team. And now to take away that left tackle like that, it's going to change up things on that offensive line for the protection of Deshaun Watson, which we know Watson can run if things break down, but I mean, this is a Pro Bowl tackle that you're losing to Seattle. Exactly. That's going to be a big pickup for Seattle, too. So, I mean, I think that's a big, big, big trade there.
Yeah.
At this point. But, I mean, this has been really a busy day in terms of just trades and just people landing in different places that you didn't expect to land. The one that really caught me off guard the most, just being so close and biased to the Patriots, was that one. Because I thought Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be
exactly
Tom Brady's understudy, and they were going to build this franchise.
Protege.
Yep.
So,
but time for top 5.
This is our power rankings as it stands towards the end of week 8.
Who do we have last week?
Who do we have? I think I'll go first.
Okay.
My last week's top 5, counting down, was at number 5 was a tie between the Saints and the Steelers. At number 4 was the New England Patriots, D. Moodys' team. At number 3 was my team, the LA Rams. At number 2, have Kansas City Chiefs, and at the top of the bowl is the Philadelphia Eagles. And now for this week's top 5, starting at number 5. The tie is broken. It is just Pittsburgh Steelers at number 5. And they're picking themselves up, man. Even though, well, no, I won't say even though it was the Lions they beat, because I expect my Lions to be a lot better than what they have been lately. As of late, they are looking like they should as the Steelers. I mean, the Steelers are a team that for the last few years have always been in top contenders per at least aspect, the look of it. They've always looked like the right team. I would even call them the NFL Spurs. Like, they're always just up there. You wouldn't give it to them?
I'd give that to the Patriots.
Would you? I guess you would, maybe.
The Patriots are kind of more like the Spurs of the NBA because of Bill Belichick and Greg Popovich.
Well, I'm just thinking of without the cheating
and with
stuff.
all the changes that they've been through, they continue to still.
I guess that's a good C word. You can use changes. Use cheating. But not yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. No. Number 5, like I said, is Pittsburgh Steelers. At number 4, I have the other part of that tie. They moved up a rank. I'm giving it to New Orleans Saints. Sound like I said Saints for a second. Yeah. That was pretty bad. But yeah, they have come up. Like you said, they started off really bad. I wouldn't have expected them to perform like they have. They look like they're really on some good momentum to come into the playoffs on a high note right now. Actually, if they can continue to keep this momentum, Drew Brees is looking like his old Super Bowl winning Drew Brees self. And like you said, the Saints defense, but this being a team usually known for its offensive, high octane skills or high octane performances. Besides the fact that they had that whole bounty thing situation on the defense a few years back, this is just looking like a really good and forceful defensive front. But at number 3 is where I have my new tie. And it's a battle of the creators, because it is the New England Patriots and the LA Rams at number 3.
They didn't have a game this week.
And I wouldn't take them off because of it.
What do you mean? If anything, they should have been 5.
Huh? No.
They didn't play this week.
And they didn't lose this week. So I must admit, now I was just going to give it to the Patriots, but then I was like, how can I scrutinize the Rams? And they didn't play. Even though, which was why I gave the Patriots the part up. It's like, why would I leave that spot solely for the Rams? Because they didn't play. So the Patriots deserve the number 3 spot, but I was still kind of torn on ends on whether or not I wanted to let them go because of the fact they didn't win nor lose this week. So, which is why I kept them there. Now, if we want to be technical about it, I will be respectful enough to take them off and give it solely to the Patriots. But as I got it right now, it's a tie between the Patriots and the Rams.
Continue.
At number 2, honestly, I didn't have to do that. My number 2 and number 1 has not changed. Number 2 is the Kansas City Chiefs, and number 1 is the Philly Eagles. These are the 2 top teams of the NFL just by going by their record and how they've been performing. And I think that's why they won't change unless something happens in the upcoming week. And that is my top 5. As we go into D. Moody's top 5, I'll go ahead and say his last week's for him.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And so last week, I'm proud of him for doing this. He had a tie between my LA Rams and the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 5, which says a lot considering how hard of just how hard D Moody is. Which I seeing how he responded to my number 3, I can tell that this was a one time, so it's a one night only affair for my Rams on his top 5. At number 4, he had New Orleans Saints. At number 3, New England Patriots. At number 2, the Chiefs. At number 1, Eagles as well. So now, D Moody, what is your top 5 of the week?
Number 5, New Orleans Saints. I dropped them down a game. They're still 5 wins in a row. They beat the Bears, but I mean,
it's the Bears.
But the Bears have beaten some quality teams this year.
Good team, Bears.
But you can't say the Bears are pushovers. But I just felt
they got pushed over this week.
The Saints could have done a little bit more with them,
than
what they did. But they're still Sean Payton, Drew Brees. They're still in my top 5 for this week.
Gotcha.
Number 4, Pittsburgh Steelers. 6-2. And the only reason they're number 4, because 5 of their next 7 games are at home in the ketchup bottle at Heinz Field. So that's very favorable for the schedule makers for almost this whole entire second half of the season. You're going to be playing at home.
I know they like that.
And then the weather is going to be shifting in their favor. Cold, possibility of snow, in Pittsburgh a lot of times. So that home field advantage is going to be huge for them.
Yeah, I see that.
So they're 6-2, and they beat the Lions. I mean, same old Lions.
That was a tough win for them.
It was. I thought the Steelers should have did more with what they did.
But, for them to pull it out.
But they pulled it out, and Schuster's really stepping up, and looks like things are coming together for the Steelers, given the fact that they're 6-2 with all the things that they've been through this year, with Ben Roethlisberger not knowing if he still has it or not, Antonio Brown crying about, hey, you're not throwing the ball to me enough, you missed me, I was open, and then Martavius Bryant wanting out
because of the same thing
or whatever the case is. So despite all the controversies, they've been able to really keep it under control. And not let it affect of how they come out and play on the field. And they're 6-2. So,
okay.
Number 3, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champion, New England Patriots. 6-2. Tough win against the Chargers. I mean, the Chargers are tough. I mean, given the fact that they've been on a roll the last couple of weeks after the 0-4 start for them, and for the Patriots to kind of hold on and win that game. The defense is playing a whole lot better than what they were in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. Brady is leading the league in passing yards, in touchdown passes. So, I mean, he's still playing at a high level in his career right now to be at this age in his career. I still think we have 2-3 years tops with Belichick and Brady being in everybody's way, so to speak. So, but I still think the killer bees have to be there. As long as those 2 guys are there, they're the nucleus of that entire operation in New England. So, they're 6-2. They're there, and we'll see how things continue to go for them as they battle for the number 1 seed with Pittsburgh and Kansas City in the AFC. And they still have a tough division to play in the AFC East, which is not a pushover division this year. Miami's doing some okay things. The Jets were playing tough football as of late. And then you got Buffalo sitting right there at 6-2 as well. Number 2 for me, Kansas City Chiefs. 6-2 on the season. They got past Denver, which I thought they would do. Again, Andy Reid is doing some really good things with the Chiefs. In the last 18 games, they're 15-3. They are just playing fundamental football. They find different ways to beat you. Some weeks it's the defense, some weeks it's the offense. Like we saw, like you say, you were shocked to see that Kareem Hunt didn't have a breakout game, or we didn't see any any big plays from Tyreek Hill or anything. But that just goes to show you that they don't have to always rely on that to win football games. They can do it defensively. They can do it through special teams. The field goal kicker can knock through clutch field goals and win games. So this team can win in all phases of the game. Number 1. Third straight week, Philadelphia Eagles. If you have not bought into this team yet, it's time that you do. They're looking like the front runners right now at 7-1, the league's best record. Carson Wentz is doing some amazing things. I think they just got better by adding Ajayi to this lineup. They're playing really good defense over the past several weeks. They got a stranglehold right now on the NFC East division. If they don't win this division, it's their own fault. At this point. There's still a lot of football left to be played, but through 8 games, 7-1, and their only loss this season is to the Chiefs. Yep. So that goes to show you that this is a legit football team. Everybody that they face, they have handled their business for the first half of the season. So hopefully they can finish it strong, potentially get that number 1 seed if they can hold on and continue to play the way that they've been playing. But I think they're the best team in the league right now. And that rounds off my top 5, much of the same as of last week, despite the Rams not being there. They're right there at 6 for me. And the reason is because they didn't play anybody this week. So I don't think it's fair that you keep them in there if they didn't have a game.
They didn't lose a game.
They didn't lose. They didn't win either. So that means they don't stay the same when other teams have played and actually done some things. So I think they're right there at 6. If anything, you could put them at a tie with the Saints at 5. But I told you last week, if you put them on the field versus the Saints, I think the Saints win. That's just me. But that's my top 5. But it has been a great season for both me and C. Moody's football teams. He's a big Rams fan. I'm a big Patriots fan. So both of our teams are doing really well. I don't really get an opportunity to come in here every week and pick at him because they continuously win. I thought going into this season that I would have a lot of opportunities to do that. Obviously, it looks like my Super Bowl pick is not going to pan out this year with Aaron Rodgers being injured. At the beginning of the year, I said that it would be Green Bay and New England in the Super Bowl. C. Moody over here says the Rams and the Cowboys are going to meet in the NFC Championship game. I don't know how that's going to go for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, the Cowboys, I was hoping, my idea going into it was that the Ezekiel Elliott suspension would kick off their first 6 games, and he will be able to come back and play with a vengeance to rally them into the playoffs and rally them to the Super Bowl. Now, it's different now because now he's pretty much missing the rest of the season, and they already kind of put themselves in a good little hole right now, 4-3, which doesn't mean they can't still make it to the playoffs, but I don't know how well they're going to perform without him, considering how productive he has been on the field with them, except for maybe 1 or 2 games. So it's still possible that can happen. And, of course, both of us picked that either the Packers or the Cowboys will be meeting the Patriots. So far, that looks like that ends.
Green Bay's not going.
Without
Rodgers, they're not going to.
Rodgers.
I may need to start investing into another NFC team, and it could very well be the team that has the best record in the league right now.
Yeah. I wouldn't be, I don't see it happening, but I would like to see the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl.
That probably could be an entertaining game.
Yeah.
It would be.
And like I said, considering whether or not the Eagles can maintain this win streak, even if they do lose another game, but saying that their first noticeable loss for them was to the Chiefs that were the first undefeated team. I would like to see basically a rematch between the two and having it on that grand stage. So
I don't think that's going to happen.
Me neither.
There's a man by the name of Mr. Tom Brady that may have a lot to say, something about how the Kansas City Chiefs season is going to end. You just don't roll up into Gillette Stadium on banner night and ruin banner night for us. And
that's what y'all get.
Don't remember that.
That's what y'all get for being so hyped and cocky and about let's just embrace
It's about winning
this
games in
win.
January and February, not in September.
Ooh, true. That's touche.
That's how we've made our success. I don't know about any other franchises. It matters in January and February, folks.
Yeah.
Not September. But that's going to conclude our coverage on the NFL, just reviewing the Week 8 picks and where we were right and wrong. I had a strong week at 12-1. One
Definitely.
game behind Seed Moody now in the overall standings for the season. We told you how we thought who were the top 5 teams in the league based off our perspective. And we'll come back a little later in the podcast and we'll get ready to get into the Week 9 picks. And hopefully it'll be a shift of guards next week and I can overtake Seed Moody for the lead. Coming up next, we're going to get into some college football. Tonight, we do know that the top 4 was released in the college football poll from the committee. We'll talk about some of the exciting games that took place last week in the world of college football. This is Sports Moods. 2 Moodys.
1 duty.
Sports.
We'll be right back. What's going on, guys? We are back. Sports Moods. 2 Moodys.
1 duty.
Sports. And we just finished Week 8 in the NFL, giving our predictions from last week, how we fared. D. Moody took that week phenomenally. And we gave our top 5 based off of our own perspectives of the NFL. Now, before we get into college football, we're going to give you some updates with the NBA right now and the World Series. I'm going to dive in first with the NBA because there are games going on right now as we speak. Some of the games that are going on right now, we have the Phoenix Suns tied with the Brooklyn Nets at 97 apiece going into the fourth quarter. We have the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Minnesota Bucks. They are up right now.
Bucks.
I mean, not Minnesota. Did I say that?
Milwaukee.
I'm sorry. Milwaukee Bucks. 75-53 going into the third quarter. The game that has ended, Sacramento Kings have lost to the Indiana Pacers 101-83. And a game coming on later on tonight is the Detroit Pistons taking on Lonzo and the LA Lakers. That's what's going on in the NBA. Lonzo. We haven't. He's going up and down. The last thing I saw was I think they lost a recent game, and he pretty much admitted his faults into why he lost that game. And I'm glad to see that he can be his own person. Lately the hype about him has been because, of course, LeVar Ball's mouth and how he's been bragging on him. And a lot of people are frustrated about that just because how arrogantly LeVar has bragged on him. But to see that Lonzo has that humbleness to him and be able to man up for his own responsibilities on the court, considering that, I know his first game was pretty horrible, made up for it in a great game. Second game, had a pretty decent game, not so much scoring, but more so passing against the Wizards. And in that over I think overtime win.
That was overtime game.
Definitely. And I don't know his last game that they had to battle on. I think that was the game that he admitted his faults on. But that is what's going on in the NBA tonight. D. Moody, do you have anything that's going on in the World Series?
I'll pull it up right quick. World Series right now, we do know the last game that we saw between the Astros and the Dodgers was an epic extra innings game. It was 13-12 final. Astros pulled it out to take a 3-2 lead in the series going back to L.A. Right now, we're at the top of the 5th inning. In L.A., the Astros do hold a 1-run lead. They did get that first run of the night in the 3rd inning. Springer, the center fielder, has an RBI in the game, and which he was accounted for the run as well. So not a lot of offense here to start it out. Looks like a good pitching battle between Verlander tonight for the Astros, trying to close it out and trying to clinch their first ever World Series championship in their franchise histories. And we do know coming into this game, it's been 27 long years since the Dodgers last won their last World Series as well. See if they can try to force a Game 7. If so, Game 7 will be tomorrow night from Dodger Stadium in LA. So we'll keep a close eye on this of Game 6 of the World Series to try to see how things turn out. If you want to tune into it, it is on Fox tonight. Joe Buck and John Smoltz calling the game tonight on Fox for the World Series Game 6. But right now we're getting ready to shift into college football. We know tonight was the unveiling of the committee's first college football playoff rankings. Tonight we're going to let you know how those rankings came out. Also, I'm still going to give you the top 10 from the AP poll as well to see how that kind of differs from how the college football playoff rankings may look. So, but the marquee matchup of the college football weekend was number 2 Penn State traveling on the road to the Horseshoe to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes, who were 6-1. We do remember the Buckeyes' only loss this season came at the hands of the Oklahoma Sooners. Since then, they have won 5 games in a row to climb back into the top 10. And this game right here has huge college football playoff ramifications for this game. The game started off with a bang. You know, Saquon Barkley, the Heisman hopeful, 97-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to start the game off for the Nittany Lions. At one point in this game, Penn State led by 18 points in this game. So they were pretty much in control of this game. They were up 21-3 at one point. McSorley for the Nittany Lions was 17 of 29, 192 yards passing in the game with 2 touchdowns. Did have a rushing touchdown in the game as well. But the breakout player in this game was Mr. J.T. Barrett. Yeah. By far the best game of the season that he's had. 33 of 39, 328 yards, 4 passing touchdowns on the night. Also along with 17 carries and 95 yards. So he did it. He was a double threat. Throwing the ball, passing the ball in that heroic effort to bring his team back. Penn State was outscored in the fourth quarter, 19-3, which was the difference in the ball game, which put the Buckeyes over Penn State, handing in their first loss of the season, 39-38 final in Columbus. Penn State loses for the first time this season. Their first loss since that epic Rose Bowl game with the USC Trojans last year. So it was a Big Ten showdown. Ohio State gets their revenge back from the prior year where Penn State beat them in Happy Valley. We do remember last year how Penn State won the conference, won the Big Ten championship, and still they were snubbed and didn't get an opportunity to go to the college football playoff. Right. And Ohio State was chosen over them to go, even though they beat Ohio State and won the conference. So now I'm anxious to see this year how the committee is going to do it. Now, given the fact that Ohio State has beaten Penn State, and if that's Penn State's only loss of the season, and they still manage to win or possibly lose the Big Ten, championship, do we still allow Penn State to go over Ohio State like they did Ohio State over Penn State last year? If you kind of get where I'm going with that.
No, you're right. That makes sense.
I mean, if this is their only loss at this point, and then they go on to win the Big Ten, I don't think Penn State, unless there's someone else out there with a better resume than them, they shouldn't get snubbed. But they need to win the rest of their games to potentially secure a spot or to be in strong consideration to go. Now, for Ohio State, I feel like they still need to win out the rest of their games to get there. They still have a showdown with Michigan and Michigan State. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll get to see if Ohio State is going to remain, in that conversation if they slip up in one of those games. But on Saturday night, those are weeks ahead, weeks to come. But as of right now, Ohio State with their marquee win of the season versus number 2 Penn State. And for Penn State, it's only a 1-point loss. So I don't think that should be held against them so much. But, I mean, they were in control of this game on the road. 18-point lead in the Horseshoe. But Buckeyes do win it. They improved to 7-1 on the season. And the Penn State Nittany Lions fall to 7-1. Another marquee matchup of ranked teams this past week was the NC State Wolfpack at number 14. They traveled to South Bend, Indiana to take on number 9 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. It was a 35-14 win for Notre Dame. It's been a really good last couple of weeks for Notre Dame. I mean, they blew out the USC Trojans, and then this week come in following that up with a blowout win over NC State. NC State was a one-loss team. Both of these two teams are one-loss teams coming in. We know Notre Dame's only loss this season was to Georgia. NC State's only loss this season was the South Carolina Gamecocks, the very first game of the season. But tough test here for them. They could not answer the challenge of the Fighting Irish. Josh Adams had a big day on the ground, 202 yards rushing off of 27 carries and a touchdown in the game. Wimbush for the Fighting Irish, their quarterback, 10 of 19, 104 yards and 2 touchdowns in the game. For NC State, their quarterback, Finley, 17 out of 37, 213 yards passing. Did throw a touchdown, also threw an interception in the game. Their wide receiver, Harmon, had 7 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Now for Notre Dame, they do have a pretty favorable schedule the rest of the way. I think they should get into the playoffs as of right now, and this is from my notes prior to knowing what the top 4 was going to be.
Right.
But, I mean, the only thing that really usually hurts Notre Dame is the fact, as I was saying last week, they don't play in a conference when it comes to football. We do know in basketball they are part of the ACC, but in football they're known as an independent team that's not loyal to any conference. So they're just kind of like out there by themselves.
Right.
So it's like, I feel like if there's a 2-loss conference champion, I think Notre Dame should definitely go to the college football playoff over a 2-loss team if they remain as a 1-loss team. And then if there's a 1-loss team, depending on who the loss was to, or who they played, I think Notre Dame should have a nod to get in because their only loss has been to Georgia, and Georgia's been strong all year. So that's one good thing going for Notre Dame. If Georgia continues to play strong and potentially meet Bama down the road, knock Bama off in the SEC championship game, or potentially lose a close one to Bama, that still works in Notre Dame's favor because, okay, this is a team that challenged Alabama in Georgia, and then this is the only team Notre Dame's lost to. I don't think they should be held out of the playoff because, they don't have a conference championship game.
Yeah, I understand.
To go to.
Definitely, I understand what you're saying right there.
Yeah. So Notre Dame gets the win.
Also, I just wanted to give a shout out to Julian Love for the 69-yard interception return in the third quarter. And then followed by Josh Adams' 77-yard run touchdown to kind of pretty much solidify it in the third quarter because nobody scored in the fourth to add on to his total 202 yards that you stated earlier. So it was a good rally in the third quarter to just kind of break away for that win.
From the Wolfpack, yeah. I mean, the ACC has some pretty good teams out there. I mean, that Clemson has to play NC State this week, so that's going to be a tough road test going to Raleigh for Clemson this week. And we do know Virginia Tech's pretty good over that way in the ACC. Miami's playing really good football in the ACC. So ACC right now is a stacked conference right now. So we're anxious to see how things turn out in the ACC. But for right now, NC State suffers that loss to Notre Dame. Moving on to the upset game of the week. Iowa State with number 25 hosting number 4 TCU Horned Frogs. So we know, I don't know if you've been following our podcast, this is kind of C. Moody's fake alma mater. He went to a Peach Bowl a couple of years ago.
Against Ole Miss.
Against Ole Miss, and a lot of people were looking at him as if, who do you go for? Who are you going for in this game? And he was like, hey, TCU.
Right. Yeah. So it definitely, it's always a fun story telling it, because once I found out what TCU meant, because I didn't know going to the game, once I found out, I was like, you know what, I have to be a fan. But it's funny, but during the game, me and my cousin who I went with, we found ourselves on the Ole Miss side. And considering that I was just becoming a newfound fan of TCU, to avoid getting ambushed being on the wrong side of the stadium, we kind of just listened to the Ole Miss fans as they bantered on about, their lack of performance. And we were like, yeah, man, what's going on with this? But once they left, I was a fully committed Horned Frogs and watching their winning ceremony. So yeah, this is my fake alma mater. So I love the fact that they're playing great football this year.
Yeah, they're doing really good right now until this past week.
Yeah, until this week.
So Iowa State, we know there's been a trap game for a lot of teams. They knocked off Oklahoma early in the year. That's the only loss that Baker Mayfield and the Sooners have.
Yep.
We'll go over some of the stats. Iowa State did win the game 14-7. And I don't know what I'm more impressed with, the fact that they won it, but they held TCU to 7 points.
I think the fact that they
held them to 7. I know TCU's using offense that can get up and down the field and score at will. The quarterback, Kyle Kemp, for the Iowa State Cyclones, 202 yards passing on the day, had 2 touchdown passes in the game. Hill, the quarterback for TCU, had a rough day. 12 out of 25, just under 50% completion percentage, 135 yards passing, 2 interceptions in the game, 2 risky turnovers there. TCU was held scoreless in the first half, and their only score of the game came on a 94-yard kickoff return. So they didn't have any offensive touchdowns in the game. So you got to give the Cyclones and Iowa State some big props.
Yeah, definitely.
Taking down another top 10 team, top 5 team. So when they played Oklahoma, I want to say Oklahoma was ranked number 3.
I believe so.
In the nation. And they're now taking down number 4 TCU. So I'm anxious to see how far up they're going to climb up the ranks. Right now, Iowa State is 6-2. TCU falls to 7-1. So now, Iowa State very much in the conversation of things in the Big 12 Conference right now. Already taken down Oklahoma and TCU, so we'd have to see how the rest of it plays out, especially with a big game this week between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, which is one of those 2 teams, both of those teams 1-loss teams. One of these teams are going to be a 2-loss team, and that could potentially open up the door more for Iowa State to potentially go to maybe a Big 12 championship game. So we have to see how all of that plays out. So those are just some of the games. Maybe C. Moody, you want to kind of run through some of the other games that kind of took place. There's some quick scores of some of the other schools out there.
Yeah. One of the Heisman hopefuls, Mason Rudolph. I mean, he had a great game taking on the 22nd ranked West Virginia University. Oklahoma State, number 11. They beat them 50-39. He had a great game with 216 yards, 20 for 34, 3 touchdowns, even though he did have 1 interception. That was a noticeable game. Another one is we have Northwestern upsetting number 16 Michigan State, 39-31. So that's, just one of those trap games, as you like to call it. And the rivalry that I stated last week between, some of my family members being Georgia versus Florida was not a game. Yeah, it was not a rivalry, to say the least. Number 3, Georgia remains undefeated, beating Florida 42-7. Just a great.
Also, Florida's coach, John McElwain Lee, or whatever. I don't know how to say his last name. McElwain Lee, or whatever his name is.
It's all right.
He's fired. He's out in Florida. And then I also, when it came down to the reaction from the Florida athletic director, they asked him, they said, well, the reasoning for the firing, kind of wanting to know more information on it. He was just kind of like, this is just more than just wins and losses, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh, wow.
So, I do know that some of the fans or the fan base there in Florida, they were sending like death threats to John McElwain Lee's family. And, it was just turning into a nasty situation down there in Gainesville for him. So he's been relieved of his duties as the Florida Gators head coach. And that could be one of the big job openings for any up-and-coming opportunity for someone to coach there.
Definitely. The last game I want to get into is another Heisman hopeful, Baker Mayfield, with Oklahoma knocking off this unranked team, TTU, 49-27. Just a great performance for Baker Mayfield. Throwing an interception, though.
He hasn't done that a lot this year.
He hasn't done that a lot at all. He went 22 for 34, 281 yards with 4 touchdowns. But like I said, 1 interception.
Yeah. Also, we saw Wisconsin stay unbeaten, winning 24-10 over Illinois. Wisconsin, kind of one of those teams a lot of people are not giving a lot of respect to because they kind of feel like, hey, they're not really playing any tough competition. They do play in the Big Ten. They won't play probably any tough competition because they have a lot of winnable games. I wouldn't be surprised they don't roll into the Big Ten championship game undefeated, because they don't play an Ohio State. They don't play a Michigan State. They don't play a Michigan this season or Penn State this season. So they're kind of on the weaker side of things in the Big Ten.
Right.
So a lot of people are not giving them, just by doing the eye test, hey, they're not playing anybody. So we're anxious to see how Wisconsin's season is going to wind down as it gets closer to the college football playoff. Miami remained undefeated on the season, 24-19 over the North Carolina Tar Heels. We saw Washington defeat UCLA 44-23. Houston Cougars hands the South Florida Bulls their first loss of the season, 28-24. They were undefeated going into this, lose a close one to suffer their first loss of the season. Virginia Tech easily over Duke, 24-3. Clemson back after that bye week. Prior to that, losing to Syracuse the week before, looked pretty strong against Georgia Tech, 24-10, the win for them. Arizona State, hands Washington Washington State their second loss of the season, 58-37 win for Rich Rodriguez and the Wildcats. And then the USC Trojans bouncing back from that loss to Notre Dame last week, winning 48-17 over Arizona State. So those are just some of the notable games. We did see the South Carolina Gamecocks. For those who are close to us here in South Carolina, they did win versus Vanderbilt. I think the final score was 34-27, the final there. But just as we follow it up with some applause, we're going to have to, because this week they play Georgia. Yeah. So I don't know how that's going to go in Athens, but given the way the Bulldogs have looked, it's been a pretty good season for the Gamecocks. I'm not taking anything away from them. 6-2 on the season, doing some really good things, maintaining pace in the SEC East. They do have to still get through Georgia. If they can somehow pull off a miracle there and get past Florida, and they may have a good chance of maybe trying to win the SEC East and maybe getting to an SEC championship game.
Okay.
But I wouldn't want the pleasure of having to play Alabama. So, yeah. But, I mean, it's a good season, 6-2. So we'll just have to see how things go this week for them when they play the Georgia Bulldogs. So right now we're going to reveal to you, now that we're getting closer to the college football playoffs, the top 10 AP poll as of right now. And we are going to reveal to you what the selection committee of the college football playoff rankings have right now as your top 4, that if the college football playoff were to start today, who would be in. So we're going to start off with the AP poll with the top 10. Number 10, after their loss, TCU falls a little hard down from 4 all the way to 10 after losing to Iowa State. Number 9, Miami Hurricanes, still undefeated on the season. Still in the top 10 as well for Mark Richt and the Hurricanes. Number 8, Oklahoma and Baker Mayfield got a tough test this week, taking on their in-state rival, the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Number 7, after their loss to Ohio State, Penn State falls down 5 spots to number 7. They're 7-1 on the season. Number 6, Clemson, still kind of hanging around that top 5 in the AP poll at least. After they got their win at 7-1, after they won at home 24-10 over Georgia Tech for Dabo Swinney. Number 5, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They keep silently just moving up the rankings.
Yeah.
Only one loss on the season is to Georgia. Notre Dame and Brian Kelly and Wimbush and Josh Adams sitting there at number 5. Number 4, Wisconsin. And this is a team that we just mentioned. Hey, a lot of people not giving a lot of respect to the Badgers because, hey, they're playing the weaker side of the Big Ten. They're not really playing any tough competition until possibly that Big Ten championship game. But they're still undefeated, so they're number 4 in the AP poll. Number 3, Ohio State. After that big win versus Penn State, they've been on a roll as of late, 6 straight wins after losing to Oklahoma early in the season. At number 3 for Urban Meyer, and a big performance from J.T. Barrett. Number 2, Georgia Bulldogs. After they destroyed the Gators this past week, Georgia's just looked really good. The only tough game they really had this year was against Notre Dame, when they went and beat Notre Dame by a field goal earlier this year. So they're sitting there at number 2, Kirby Smart, head coach there, doing some good things with the Bulldogs. And number 1, 5-4 fun. Big Bad Bama is still number 1. Nick Saban and company. And that's your top 10 coaches poll. So now it's around that time of year, the selection committee. College football playoff were to start today. These are the 4 teams that they would send to the playoff. Number 4, the defending national champion Clemson Tigers.
Okay.
And I understand where the committee's coming with this pick, because they lost to Syracuse, give it or take it. Syracuse was unranked.
Yeah.
But remember the stat we threw out a couple weeks ago. They beat 3 top 15 teams in the month of September alone.
Yeah.
So I believe you'd got, if it were to start today, they need to be there just by virtue of that alone.
Right.
And just to show you how well the ACC is looking this year. So
True.
Clemson's in according to the committee if it were to start today. Number 3. Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So you notice Notre Dame is number 5 in the AP coaches poll, but in the college football selection committee, they're in.
Yeah.
Look at Clemson. They're number 6 in the top 10.
And they're in.
They're in. So Ohio State, Wisconsin, Penn State kind of
Kicked out.
Kicked out as of right now is what I'm looking at. Number 2. Big Bad Bama at number 2.
At number 2. That's the weirdest thing to me.
Like New Day. Woo! It's number 1. If Bama's number 2. Georgia Bulldogs.
Georgia.
Number 1.
Number 1.
So that would be your college football playoff if it were to start today. Those would be your 4 teams. Now, do I agree? I agree with every one of these picks. Now, obviously, will Georgia and Bama eliminate each other because they're both possibly going to have to play each other in a potential SEC championship game? But if it's depending on how that game goes, if it's a close game and Bama barely loses to Georgia or Georgia barely loses to Bama, I think strong consideration that both of them should
stay in there.
Should stay in there, even though neither has lost yet. So, okay. But then I think with Notre Dame, by virtue of them just being just like the outsider here, like, hey, we don't have a conference championship game.
Right.
That could work in our favor, but we don't have a conference championship game that can hurt us either. So, like, we just have to we get the luxury to sit back to see what everybody else is going to do, what everybody else's mistakes are going to be. And then we're like, hey, we're still over here. We just lost 1 game, we only lost to Georgia.
True. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so that can kind of be to their advantage in a way.
Yeah.
And Clemson, like I said, just by virtue of them beating the 3 teams in the top 15 in September, and then just only that loss to Syracuse being in there. Now, you could argue Penn State, hey, we only lost by 1 to Ohio State, and Ohio State lost to Oklahoma. Ohio State, I don't think you can put them in there right now because they've only had 1 big win, and that's been against Penn State.
Yeah.
Now, Penn State has beaten Michigan, which was ranked at the time. And then they've lost this one, Ohio State. Now, they have a chance this week to beat a ranked Michigan State team who's going to fall down the rankings a little bit because they lost this week. Now, if Michigan State would have won, then they'd have still been ranked a little high. Then that win would mean a lot more for Penn State if they would have beat Michigan State. Miami's still unbeaten. They're still out there. Oklahoma's still out there with 1 loss. But their loss now to Iowa State doesn't look as bad anymore because they beat TCU. So if that's the only loss that Oklahoma has, and we've got Iowa State out here who's beaten, TCU and them. So you got to look at like TCU and Oklahoma has the same argument until they play each other.
Right.
And then that team's one of those 2 teams are going to have 2 losses. So can I foresee a 2-loss team going? Not so much. I don't, because you have the Notre Dame cards you can play.
Yeah.
So I just feel like now,
I don't see it. I don't see it.
I can't see a 2-loss team going in over a 1-loss Notre Dame team. Because a lot of these teams are going to play each other. Georgia's going to play Bama. The only way, I could see possibly the SEC sending 2 is if Bama and Georgia, when they play each other, despite if Georgia doesn't lose or Bama doesn't lose, which we'll see in the upcoming weeks, if it's a close game, then you can make the argument, well, this was a tough game. This is the only loss they've had in the conference championship game. So you get an opportunity to send 2 from the SEC.
Right.
Somebody's going to get left out, Nicole. Every year it always happens. Last year it was Penn State. I don't know who it'll be this year. But we'll have to see how it goes. But that's your top 10 AP poll, and then your college football playoff rankings, your top 4 as it stands tonight. Now, some of the big matchups coming up this season, we'll have number 1, Alabama hosting number 19, LSU. We do know LSU has been on the roll as of late. We do know they had that tough loss to Troy, but they bounced back since then.
Yeah.
South Carolina Gamecocks, man. Got to travel on the road to take on number 2 Georgia, man. That's going to be a CBS game. 3:30 in the afternoon on Saturday. In the big leagues now, Gamecock.
Yeah.
See what you're really about. Number 3, Ohio State will host Iowa. You have number 6, Clemson, going to Raleigh to take on number 20, NC State. You got number 8, Oklahoma, taking on number 11, Oklahoma State. You got number 18, Stanford, taking on number 25, Washington State. You got number 13, Virginia Tech, taking on number 9, Miami. So we got a lot of ranked teams going at each other this week. So I'm just anxious to see how the top 10 is going to look next week, how the top 4 is going to look, because just by the process of elimination, there's just a lot of ranked matchups going on this week.
Exactly.
So it's going to be a thrilling week. It should be a thrilling week in college football. Right now, I'm going to shift it over to C. Moody to tell you about the Heisman hopefuls, or he likes to call it Heisman High Five.
I do love to call it that. This is the Heisman High Five. And D, this year, the Heisman top 5 is turning into a running back game this year. I know usually we say it's quarterbacks, it's more about quarterbacks, but this year we have in the top 5 is 3 running backs with 2 quarterbacks, and the new quarterback that we have into the Heisman 5. So, but I'm going to say it once I get into it. Number 5, we have Notre Dame's running back Josh Adams. Had his highest scoring game of the season, accounting for 18 points all around. For the season, he has accounted for 1,169 total rushing yards and 9 rushing touchdowns. At number 4, the new addition to the top 5, J.T. Barrett, quarterback from Ohio State University, cracking the top 5 for the first time this season after his stellar performance, as we talked about earlier, against their win against Penn State. He has 2,166 passing yards and 25 passing touchdowns. His rating for the season is 176.2. Yep. J.T. Barrett. At number 3, we have Stanford's running back Bryce Love. He wasn't able to play this past week because he injured his ankle. But even though they did lose, I think they lost this past game, but he's still at number 3. He still accounts for 1,387 rushing yards with 11 rushing touchdowns. And at number 2, who's remained up here the entire season, Baker Mayfield, quarterback for Oklahoma. For the season, he has 2,628 passing yards, 23 passing touchdowns. His rating for the season is 195.6. And his completion percentage is 72.5. And at number 1, remaining at number 1, even in defeat, is Penn State's running back Saquon Barkley, who keeps the top spot. He still received his fewest votes, but he still remains at number 1 and had his lowest total rushing yards of the season against Ohio State. For the season, though, he does account for 801 rushing yards and 9 rushing touchdowns.
Well, the thing about Saquon Barkley this week, he didn't have a breakout rushing game, but he can do it in so many ways. He's an all-purpose player. The kickoff return shows you that. 97-yard kickoff return. One week he had it in 12 receptions or so for over 100 yards and a couple touchdowns. He rushed for a couple touchdowns. He can affect you in just about every area of the game. He can run it. He can catch it. He can do kick returns. The only thing he hasn't done yet this year probably is throw a touchdown.
Exactly.
So, and caught an interception. So, he can't do that because he doesn't play defense. But, he is just a great all-around threat. And I think, again, as I said last week, if it were up to me, I'd hand it to him today.
Yeah.
To be the Heisman. You got some really good performers in there. Baker Mayfield. Only thing to me that really hurts him is that he's constantly in shootouts.
Yeah.
In the Big 12. His defense really doesn't. I don't think they've really had a really good defensive game since that game they beat Ohio State.
No.
I mean, they give up a lot of points. He's constantly having to play at that high of a level for them to potentially even win, because they're in 49-41 shootouts or 42-35 shootouts. So I'm not saying that's against him because he can't play defense.
Right.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it puts more pressure on him to play at a high level because he has to constantly put the ball in the end zone to give his team an opportunity to win.
I got you.
But, I mean, that's how things looks right now in the college football world. We've already discussed some of the notable games that took place last week, how the new top 10 looks, how the college football playoff ranking top 4 looks as of right now. We've revealed to you some of the big matchups coming up this week, and then we revealed to you who are the top 5 Heisman hopefuls. So that's going to round things off here in the world of college football. We've already covered everything from the NFL Week 8 picks and just reviewing how things went there. We took a dive into college football, and now we're going to get into WWE Monday Night Raw, getting close to Survivor Series. Want to see how things are shaping up to see who's going to be representing Team Raw. We do know SmackDown Live is live and running tonight, so we really won't have much coverage on that because we're in the middle of the podcast. But we may take a sneak peek at how things are taking place on SmackDown Live. This is Sports Moods. 2 Moodys.
1 duty.
Sports.
We'll be back.
Welcome back to Sports Moods. 2 Moodys.
1 duty.
Sports. Before we jump into the WWE, quick update on the World Series Game 6 happening right now as we speak. We know the Astros have a 3-2 lead. A win tonight would clinch their first ever World Series championship in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers have other plans. They want to force it to Game 7. Right now, the Astros have a 1-run lead. They still hold that 1-run lead. They scored that one and only run in the 3rd inning. Right now, it looks like Verlander is doing a good job on the mound, holding the Dodgers scoreless. They only have 1 hit in the game. The Astros have 5 hits on their 1-run scored, so it looks like the Astros have had opportunities to score runs, but looks like the Dodgers have come out to keep them from adding to that lead. So we'll keep a close watch on that to see potentially if the Astros can close it out tonight, or will the Dodgers push it to a Game 7. And one thing before I let C. Moody get into Monday Night Raw, if you don't follow us on Twitter, follow us at Sports Moods on Twitter. We're constantly updating scores of games, giving you our feedback on what we think is going on around the world of sports. If you want a quick dive into things, we're constantly updating things around the clock. And also you can follow us on Instagram at It's Sports Moods. I kind of control the Twitter side of things, and we let C. Moody kind of control the Instagram part of it. Also, you can listen at our podcast. We upload them on Twitter as well as Spreaker, and now we're also available on iHeartRadio. We do thank each and every person that takes the time out of their day to listen to our podcast. And we do appreciate you from wherever you're listening from each and every week, giving us a support. And we do want to be your go-to in sports.
Well said. Well said. We appreciate everybody for the support, watching, following, however you're keeping up with us as we're trying to keep up with sports to give you as updated and as recent of sports news as possible. As D. Moody stated, he kind of takes over the Twitter platform, and I will say that is the more consistent updates with any kind of sports feedback that you want to go to. You would follow Sports Moods at Sports Moods on Twitter. And I get in where I fit in on Instagram. And you can find Sports Mood on Instagram at It's Sports Moods. So,
probably in the near future, I will say we'll probably make a Facebook page as well.
Yeah.
Just to kind of have every outlet. Most big sports outlets have those three: the Instagram,
exactly.
the Facebook, or the Twitter. So we'll probably be making that in the upcoming weeks to give you guys more info on that as well.
Sounds good. So now we're going to get into some good old wrestling. Starting off with Monday Night Raw on October 30th, just last night. Raw opened up with the entire Raw locker room. Well, the majority of the Raw locker room. And Kurt Angle is in the ring and he's expressing how Shane took advantage of their friendship and this, so to speak, friendly competition at the upcoming pay-per-view Survivor Series between the red brand and the blue brand. And he says that he won't let his guard down again. We are on watch and we are going to not have this happen. It's all on Kurt. He let everybody down. But then in comes Stephanie McMahon, the commissioner of Raw. She comes in and she goes on, she said he's been doing an excellent job, even, going so far as to put himself to help the Shield at the pay-per-view and, make the pay-per-view what it was. Now, he did this good job all until last week, until he let Shane take Raw with the key word for pay-per-views, so to speak, looks like under siege. And and she doesn't want to hear any of Kurt's pathetic excuses. And she's saying that Shane did this as another attack at her personally because Shane wasn't able to defend their family name at their last pay-per-view, Hell in a Cell. Even though she did give him respect for putting his body and stuff on the line. But now she's just trying to attack Stephanie to make her look bad. And she blames Kurt for all of it. And she even adds an I to her 3 I's, like the integrity, intelligence, intensity, and the 4th I, incompetent. And she gives him a chance. She says she's going to give him a chance to make it up by making him the team captain of the red brand, Team Raw. And she expects Survivor Series to be an annihilation. And if it's not, she'll find a new general manager. And if she doesn't believe him, just ask Mick Foley. That's what she says upon leaving.
Like, oh, it's true.
Oh yeah, then she has to. Everybody who gets back on Kurt Angle uses his little slogan against him. So, and like I said, backstage she reiterates that whole thing, even saying that ask Mick Foley before she leaves. And when she leaves, guess who comes in? The Miz. And the Miztourage with the returning Bo Dallas. Good to see that he's back from his recent illness. And he starts immediately complaining, but Kurt's not having it today. He's like, "Shut up, Miz." He's like, "You weren't even here last week when they attacked all of us." I like how he said he was like, "So where were you at?" And like, but now you're gonna come up, and then you're gonna come here late. He's like, "You know what? I'm not putting up with it. I'm putting you in a title match tonight." And if you would have known who it was if you would have shown up on time, but I guess you're going to have to go to the ring and find out.
But he wouldn't have knew anyway because Stephanie interrupted him, so Kurt never got to say.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't know. But anyway.
So now we have our first match of the night, which is Bayley versus...
You're not going to let me talk about Stephanie coming back?
Oh, my bad. I thought that was it. Go ahead.
I want to throw a little something at her.
Yeah, get your input in.
Can you hit that button for me?
Which one? The bad? Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Not a bad
right move. Quick.
Okay.
Where do you get off? Coming back after all these months. Tried to lay the law down. We hadn't seen you since WrestleMania, although we saw you on SmackDown Live when Kevin Owens beat up
your daddy. Can't beat up her dad.
So... But we haven't seen you since WrestleMania when you got knocked off the apron through the table.
Yeah.
So
she had to heal.
But you want to come out and build this man up just to break him down. He's been running your show and he's been doing a really good job.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, even though I'm not a big fan of Raw could be so much better than what it is. But I do like Kurt as the GM. He's not afraid. He's not like Mick Foley. I didn't really care for Mick Foley as the GM.
Really?
I didn't like Mick. Mick just he didn't have a backbone. Kurt is just because at that point Stephanie wouldn't allow him to run the show. Pretty much, she was always there all the time. So I guess at this point, with Stephanie not being here, Kurt had more. I wouldn't know how it would be if Stephanie was there every week, like Shane is on SmackDown. But since Kurt has kind of had free reign, he doesn't have no one over his shoulder always, on him, micromanaging him as Mick Foley did. But I just don't like the storyline of how the McMahons always make it about them. Like she said, Shane is doing this to me. Like, you haven't been there for him to do anything to you. There's been no back and forth between you and Shane.
What do you expect? It's their company. It's their company.
In months. So how is he targeting you? And at the end of the day, it's like you just built this man up and said he's doing a good job. Yeah. And then you're going to say, if you don't give me results, then I'm going to find a new GM. Like, at the end of the day, you didn't hire him. Vince did. So it should be Vince's decision to say, hey, Kurt, you're out. Even though Stephanie's the commissioner, but you haven't been here to really come here to try to lay the law down all of a sudden. But I really believe this is leading into a potential disconnect between him and Stephanie. And I think this is where Triple H possibly could, coming around Mania season, because it's rumored that it could possibly be Kurt Angle and Triple H at WrestleMania. But I just didn't like the way she came at Kurt like that. I mean, Kurt's been carrying your show while you've been God knows where, and you want to come strutting down here trying to sling your power around, so to speak. But go ahead, continue. That's just how I feel.
Okay. Hey, I guess.
You was happy
that's
to
what
see her?
I mean, I wasn't happy because, like you said, she came and bashed Kurt Angle for the great job that he's done. But, I mean, she's always been a heel persona. I didn't expect her to come and be, a positive influence on the show. And like you said, like, she's the one who likes to take credit or take away credit from anybody else. And like you said, it's different between Shane and Daniel because even though Shane's always there, it's not like Shane takes away anything from Daniel Bryan's decisions. Mm-hmm. Albeit with Stephanie and Mick Foley, if something she didn't like, she changed or, whatever. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I hope that it doesn't become her being a nightly show and then it starts to change everything again. Unless they start the battle, because maybe the possibility of her now coming and pushing Kurt Angle into a match is that they're starting to bring back the in-ring Kurt Angle, and I don't know if that's how that's going to affect his general manager. Well, yeah, his general manager role or not, but maybe like I said, it'll give us more action from Kurt Angle. So I don't know. So. We go continuing to the night. First match, we have Bayley versus Alicia Fox. Alicia Fox comes out to the ramp with a captain hat, and now she's this captain persona. So she's like, "This is your captain speaking," and she is hilarious. Now it's this little crazy tyrant little girl persona. It's almost like the epitome of what Alexa Bliss should be. If she was completely crazy. She expresses how because she's the captain, she's not going to wrestle tonight. She's too busy being the captain. So instead, in comes Nia Jax, a returning Nia Jax, because if you remember a few weeks ago, she kind of just walked out. She wasn't appearing for a couple weeks prior. Then it was reported on our news resources. I know mine was Wrestle Talk TV on YouTube that she walked out from Raw. So she comes back, and in this match, both of them look as strong as both can possibly be. But Nia, it looks like they're trying to repackage Nia as more dominant as they didn't allow her to be in the months before, and she had a new move. It was almost like a tumbling spear. It was like she speared Bailey, but she tumbled over, and then
I liked it.
I liked it. I guess it's because it's new, and it makes her look more athletic, just how much she moves in the midst of it. So, I mean, it doesn't look like it's as impactful, but considering her size, it makes it impactful.
That's why I'm concerned for the size of her rolling like that.
But I like it. Like I said, I like it because it makes her athletic. The scariest thing, as Michael Cole and Corey Graves always talks about, is someone so big being so athletic, like Braun Strowman.
It is.
Which is what I'm hoping they start to repackage Nia Jax as a real female Braun Strowman type character. And she goes from that little tumble spear straight into the leg drop for an easy win. And upon winning, Alicia Fox is still on top of the ramp watching, and she announces that Nia Jax is the first person on the Raw women's team. And while Nia Jax is coming up the ramp, in comes Samoa Joe. Joe. So he comes in, and he asks the fans, did they miss him? And they all are hyped about it. And he's like, I don't miss any of you. He's like, because no one really cared. It's like, yeah, y'all might have put get well, but nobody really took personal time out to see if I was okay. And so y'all didn't care. So I don't care about you guys. And before, I'm going to let you say, I want to say this last little part. So he was like, whoever comes out to challenge him, while he's beating them up, he's going to be thinking of all of you fans while he's beating them up. And I thought that was hilarious.
I love Joe as a heel.
Yeah.
Give me some. It was just a breath of fresh air to see him back.
Yeah, definitely.
For the last few weeks, he's been so
exactly.
I love how, because when he came out, he got the reaction as if he was a face.
Right, he did,
and he cut that down no, I'm not here to be a face. I want y'all to know that. Like, I didn't miss y'all. Like, I'm here to let you know I'm Samoa Joe. I'm still that dude that just don't care, say or do anything. And I almost thought he was going to come out as a face, because when he got in the ring, he kind of ran up to the ropes in front of the camera, did his little Samoa hand gesture, and I was like, okay, maybe this is a new Joe. But now you need Joe.
Then he grabbed the mic.
You need him as a heel.
I guess
I can't see him as anything but.
They're not. I agree. There's not that many effective heels. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. The Miz is doing a great job at being just heel, but it's the bane of my existence.
Yeah, it's getting stale now.
You think so?
It's just because the Intercontinental title is just. It's more of a prop for him. It's just something to carry around with him all the time. I agree. I think they said something about that later on in the night. Corey Graves or somebody was saying how they're running on the SmackDown, the Blue brand, that they're running the United States Championship title into the ground with just trying to keep it relevant for Baron Corbin. But I feel the exact opposite, because it makes it more prestigious because it's actually being fought for, at least before Baron Corbin got it, since he closed the United States Open Challenge. And with the Miz, like you said, it's not real competition. It's just more so him complaining and they
arguing.
Have really good talent that could challenge him for that.
Yeah. So I like the fact that Kurt Angle put him in the match tonight. Mm-hmm. So Samoa Joe challenges anybody. In comes Apollo Crews, Titus Worldwide. Of course, Titus O'Neil coming in beside him or whatever. It was a decent match. What you can expect from a returning Samoa Joe, at least on his end. Of course, Apollo Crews' size kind of looked like it was holding its own against him. Honestly, this was the first time that I felt like Apollo Crews looked like a heavyweight. Honestly, because I'm just used to him being a high flying kind of a lower. Not yet cruiserweight, but still not heavyweight material. But just how he kind of stood his own for a little spurts of time throughout the match. Made me feel like, okay, well, he kind of looks a little bit stronger in this match. But Joe is pretty much dominant, and I like the fact that Joe hit the sudden impact power slam that Randy Orton always does off the ropes. But his looked a lot nastier than Randy Orton's, and maybe it could be accounted to Joe's size or the fact that Apollo Crews is really athletic, so he might be lighter to move around. So But that was a good move for that. The funniest part of this match was when Joe was in the corner, and Apollo Crews is running at him, and Joe's hitting the Uranagi on him. But while he's doing the Uranagi, you clearly hear him say, "Man, sit your down." And he says "down" upon impact, and that was just like, that shows so much aggression. Like, that was like, okay,
I love
that Samoa Joe's back. This is the job.
Where he threw the gum at Titus.
I forgot about
the
that.
gum clear out of his mouth, just threw it on him.
So yeah, it's the true disrespect of Samoa Joe is in full force. And then with that, he hits the Coquina clutch, easy win. Titus comes in, of course, like you said, mad because of the gum throwing. Samoa Joe looks like he's retreating because, he doesn't want no problems. But Titus turns around to look after Apollo. He sneaks up on him, hits him with the Coquina clutch too, and both men are out. And that's Samoa Joe.
Why would you turn your back on Samoa Joe? That's the biggest thing. Why would you do that?
But it's Titus. I think Titus feels like, although he's now repackaged as just this brand marketer, like
that don't mean nobody will put their hands on.
But still, I still feel like Titus might think, he's big enough that he ain't gonna mess with me. In a sense, I feel like that's true. That's
once that lock get on you ain't coming out of that.
Exactly, unless you're Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, unless you're Brock.
Yeah, which he should have lost that. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman, and
the advocate for the
reigning, defending, undisputed
Universal Champion, Brock
Lesnar.
He makes millions just for saying that.
Exactly. So next we have the Intercontinental Championship match. The Miz and the Miztourage comes out. And he doesn't know who it is. And all of a sudden, you hear Matt Hardy comes out. Delete! Still doing the Hardy Team Extreme theme music, but he still does his delete. Still trying to subliminally bring his persona over to Raw. And I guess until they finally get over whatever kind of, legal disputes they have with TNA, which I hope comes sooner than later. Mm-hmm. But in this match, Matt started off pretty strong in this match. But of course, Miz gains control after commercial break. It had a real nice top neck breaker off the top rope to Matt Hardy. I thought that was nice. But then Matt starts to gain momentum. He actually hits a moonsault off the top rope, which you haven't seen Matt.
I haven't seen him go high fly.
Exactly. So I mean, that was
so stiff and
exactly. But that was such a nostalgia moment. Like, he almost looked younger after doing that. But of course, Miz kicks out. He hits the twist of fates on the Miz, but the Miz rolls out. Matt tries to get him in the ring, but he does the little pull down neck on the rope situation. Comes in, hits the skull crushing finale. And that's the dub.
This was a good match, though. I like the way it went back and forth. Matt had a lot of offense in this match. And I don't know if it caught the Miz off guard because he didn't know who he was fighting. But Matt really I thought Matt was actually going to win for a minute. I thought they was going to do a quick title change and then maybe a rematch next week and the Miz get it back.
Because
they said Matt Hardy's never held the Intercontinental title before.
Right.
So I thought this could be like you said, a nostalgia moment just for a week or so. Because really, I'm not really excited to see a Baron Corbin Miz match. I'm just not.
I am. I actually am.
It's
just
two heels.
It's
just.
I like that. It's like, who's the better dick? Like.
But we know Baron Corbin is. Baron Corbin's like a whole nother level. He's a heel, but he's tough with his heelness. He doesn't need even though he takes shortcuts.
But that's the Miz's advantage. He has the Taraj.
Goons behind.
He has the Miz Taraj. That's where the Miz advantage comes in, right there. Is that Bo and Curtis?
Put that end of days on him. He ain't gonna worry. He ain't got nothing to worry about after that.
Oh, I would want to see Baron Corbin hit the end of days on Bo and Curtis at the same time. On both of them. That'd be perfect for me. So that's a plug, WWE. After this match, we have Kurt backstage. Alexa Bliss comes in on him, tries to offer that they need to get rid of dead weight. that being Mickie James, in exchange for someone off the Mae Young Classic, or we can just dig up Mae Young herself.
I hated that when they
I felt like that was
a little bit too much.
Yeah.
We had this whole tribute to honor her, and then you say something like that.
Right. Yeah. That might have been a little too far right there, Alexa.
Rest,
so, like, Kurt bashes her, you know, for also not really defending Raw, just standing there and whatever, as he put it. And at least Mickie James tried to fight back. So
I didn't even see the Bliss back there when they came.
I didn't either. I didn't know.
Seemed like none of the champions were there.
Yeah, all the champions were gone. Well, you know, I guess they was trying to took a page out of Brock Lesnar's book. But so
you're gonna be taking shots at the Beast.
I'm just saying, I'm gonna have to fight him after a while.
Show the Beast more respect.
I will fight him. I will fight Brock Lesnar because he don't be there. I don't care, and that pisses me off. And so,
you have to be.
Huh? He needs to be. He's a champion. Be a champion. Defend your title. So, Kurt Angle, because I'm about to be like Jinder Mahal and extend my challenge to Brock Lesnar. Okay. So.
And that's a joke of a challenge.
Not
you. I'm saying Jinder Mahal.
No, it's all right. Challenge accepted. So
yeah, that's a joke.
Jinder
Mahal's a joke.
Anybody, let Brock Lesnar. If anybody somehow knows Brock Lesnar, let him know that I am challenging him to a WWE Universal Championship match right here on Sports Moods, anytime, any place.
It won't be Sports Moves anymore because you're gonna be out.
It's gonna be one move.
We're gonna have to one suplex. You do it.
No, when he starts that knees to the stomach, I'm crying.
As soon as he look at me, I'm going up the ramp. I'm going back to
I'm on my own.
Moody, you got this.
You
bro.
got it.
You got it.
Hey, all right. I said it. See Moody, Brock Lesnar. Somebody make this happen. So back to Raw. Kurt Angle bashes Alexa Bliss for not, defending Raw. At least Mickie James did. So he said for the main events, Alexa Bliss will defend her title against Mickie James. That's that. Now we finally start to see what should have been happening. We have Asuka in a squash match against Stacey Cullen. And
who is Stacey Cullen?
Exactly. Asuka abuses her for a few minutes and she hits the Asuka lock for the win.
Did you see the move she did with her leg? Where she took her leg and twisted it and kicked it back. How do you?
I don't know. She made it look like, honestly, in my mind, all it was her lift her leg up backwards and just push it straight down. But she made so many other moves that made it look so complicated. Mm-hmm. Like it was just like she almost did a Japanese ritual before she just released her leg on the back of her head. That was just horrible.
And like you said, this is the way they should build her.
Yeah.
And we know Emma's no longer with WWE now.
I saw that and I didn't know why.
Yeah, but I'm saying they build her to make her look strong.
Just to release her.
Why
did they do that though? Do you have any intel?
I don't.
We'll have to figure that out, man.
But
that's crazy to me.
This is the way they should have built Asuka all along. This is how she should have beat Emma.
Yeah, which makes that even worse now because we built Emma up so strong. When she should have been a part of one of the squash matches on the road for Asuka, and now we let her go. So now we're almost, in a sense, we're trying to act like that didn't happen and just start putting Asuka in squash matches. So, but that's WWE. Again, we have right, and so Kurt Angle's backstage. He starts to look shocked, and then he yells in the walk. He's like, "They're here! Alert everyone! They're here!" And so then he gets off, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And then this camera pans out and we see that it's Daniel Bryan. So Daniel's trying to say that he's coming in peace and Kurt's like, "Nah." It's like, "I thought Shane did that. He betrayed me. That's what I get for opening my heart, opening myself up. I'm not letting it happen again. I don't trust you. I don't trust any of you guys." He's like, "For all I know, you could have somebody somewhere." And so Kurt's just bashing him and he doesn't trust her. And you don't understand how much heat is on him now because Stephanie McMahon chewed him open. And so Daniel's like, but that's not me. I was mad at Shane too. I didn't know. And so Kurt's like, I should just have, how many people in Raw can just tear you apart right now. You know what? You need to stay in here so that you would be safe, because if you go out there, there's no telling what's going to happen to you.
True.
So, you wanted to add something right there?
Daniel Bryan is like the most innocent person in all of this. He had no idea that they were coming last week to attack.
Right.
And then now he's trying to make it right because we saw him and Shane kind of go back and forth, and then he goes to Raw to try to be the person to try to... There's no reconciliation now.
Nah.
Man, it's too far gone now. You're just in the wrong place.
Yep.
At the wrong time. As we'll find out later.
So, Daniels, like, now we see Daniels on the phone telling how Kurt took it and how he's not responding well and how he doesn't trust him. Then all of a sudden we see the lights go out. So he's just stuck there. He's looking around, goes to another commercial, and Daniel's back on the phone. He's like, saying that, I don't know what's going on. And then he pauses like something doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden you see a hand jump on his throat. You can see Kane's face with the light from the cell phone. And then it looks like he gets lifted up, and you hear, sounds like a table collapsing under the weight of Daniel Bryan as we imagine that Kane chokeslammed him. And that's where we leave the mystery of what happens to Daniel Bryan right there. Mm-hmm. As we get into the next match, which is Finn Balor versus Cesaro with his buddy Sheamus. And in this match, this actually to me was a pretty good match. It was. It's a really good match.
Past 2 weeks we've seen some really good things going on with Cesaro. I mean, we saw him and AJ Styles have their little, good little spot in that match last week, and then this week with Finn Balor. So yeah.
So Cesaro starts off strong. Finn takes him out. Sheamus is interfering. Cesaro gets control. Sheamus is still interfering. Cesaro does that great pop-up uppercut that I like now.
I love that move.
Yeah. And he also hits a superplex by lifting Finn Balor from outside the ropes onto his head while he's on the top turnbuckle for a superplex. So that was just one of the great moments of strength. That it just seems like it's an underrated amount of strength that Cesaro has. So I love when he does that. But of course, Finn Balor kicks out. Then Cesaro hits a sharpshooter on him and turns it into a crossface when Finn tries to escape the sharpshooter. But then Finn breaks out, kind of does his little on-the-floor coup de grace, which they just call it a stomp. Sheamus is back interfering, but this time Finn catches him, kicks him out. Then he dumps Cesaro out the ring, and then he jumps on both of them, flying out the ring. Comes back in, hits a coup de grace to the back of the neck of Cesaro for the win, for the dub. Then, in the midst of that celebration from a good match, in comes Kane. Kane meets him at the top of the ramp, hits him with a pile driver on top of the stage, then persists to come into the ring. And when he comes in the ring, you hear Shield, Hotel, Indy, Echo. What's the other one?
It's like a lot of matches tonight. I think
they run into each other.
It's like they just like how Joe did the thing.
Yeah, but I like that.
I like how they did that. They'll just get on to it. Maybe exactly. That stops a commercial break or two.
Yeah, it helps the flow of the show for me.
But then it made sense because Kane and Balor just fought the week before,
right? And
that could be opening up to what you said, Demon versus.
I hope so. Demon. I mean, if depending on how they're doing Braun, because it seemed like Braun's attention, which I will get into that later. But yeah, so. In comes the Shield, which going into some history, like you said, just a couple weeks ago, that was Braun Strowman that took out Seth and Dean. But I mean, Kane did the same thing, just last week. Was it last week he took out them? So, it's a one-on-one between Kane and Seth Rollins, which was pretty much just a good match in between speed versus strength, basically. Seth running around the ring, doing the little diving drop kicks outside the ring. But Kane is pretty much gaining momentum. But Seth is kind of staying alive and, like I said, using his speed to his advantage. Then out of nowhere, you see Shimaro, same as Cesaro, which I just call him Shimaro, appears at the ringside. And they attack Dean Ambrose. And so now Seth is like trying to manage to keep his fight with Kane alive, and then jumps outside the ring onto Sheamus and Cesaro. But when he comes in, he tries to jump, does another, I guess he was going to do a flying knee, jumps into a choke slam. And that's it. That's a win. And then he tries to go for another choke slam, but Dean comes in and hits him with a dirty D's. But Kane does his infamous sit-up rise from the dead, kind of, so to speak. And then Sheamus and Cesaro comes in, attacks Dean Ambrose. And Kane hits him with the Tombstone Pile Driver. And then Seth tries to cover Dean Ambrose from any more hurt. And then Kane picks Seth up, hits the Tombstone Pile Driver on him. And leaves both of them laid out on the floor. Standing above him is Sheamus, Cesaro, and the Big Red Machine or Demon, whichever one they're going to make this about right now, Kane. Which I feel like you said, like how I was saying earlier, they're leaning towards doing the Kane versus Finn Balor as of right now. And maybe they'll go back into the competition between Braun Strowman and Kane. So,
and then now it's kind of throwing me off because how Kane came out and made this big promo about Braun Strowman last week, and both of them were in the same building tonight and they didn't cross paths.
Yeah.
It just really didn't make sense to me on that part. I understand where, I guess, Strowman felt he had unfinished business with. Yeah,
because for Strowman, he can really go after anybody, like because all five of them, all of them. And
now we got Kane, like he's feuding with the Shield, and then he's with Balor, so you don't know which. They're building Kane as if he's the guy to beat right now.
Yeah, they really are.
Right now. That's the way it's looking, like he's the unstoppable force. So, and then I guess Strowman's trying to reassess his dominance again. So, hopefully this could be a collision course between those two.
I guess, but if they're going to intertwine Finn Balor in it, somebody's going to have a negative.
Yeah, and it's the thing that we're building Finn Balor to potentially fight Brock Lesnar at Royal Rumble, but you mean tell me he can't beat Kane, but I'm supposed to believe he's going to beat Brock.
Right, and then in the opposite side, opposite perspective of it, if Kane can't beat Finn Balor, how can we expect him to last against Braun Strowman if that's what it's going to lead to? So both ways, like if they don't figure out a good way to balance this out, it's not going to look good for one way or the other. So
yeah, you're right.
So there's that. I mean, now we have the Miz Taraj. They're going back to the locker room to celebrate after his victory. And they come in, Miz smells something, and right in front of him is a bag of garbage. And so Curtis Axel just is confused, but Miz is like, it's Braun Strowman. He's back. And it's like, they're like, what? This is like, we put him in a garbage truck. He's not coming back. He's never coming back. And then that's when it's like, guys, no. Like, Miz starts to lose it. And so the Miz Taraj is like, we have your back, man. It's like, don't worry. And it seemed like Miz just worried even harder when he said that. So Miz goes to find Kane. And he tries to throw it. He tries to subliminally throw it on Kane. He's like, hey, remember when you threw Braun Strowman into the garbage truck? I think he's back. And Kane was like, I remember all of us, including you, helped me throw him in the garbage truck. And so Braun, Miz is like, well, I'm just glad we're going to be there together to take. And Kane's like, no, Braun knows where to find me, but you're on your own. So
like you got this.
You is on your own. And then, considering we have only a few minutes left, I might as well just kind of leave with a stain on this podcast. We have a trick or street fight.
Please don't talk about it.
We have to. It's in the card. Heath Slater and Rhino versus the Good Brothers, which is Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. We see pumpkins, the little bobbing for apple pin, candy cane designed kendo sticks, and tables. We've come too far to do this again.
And my thing is this. We're all night long we're plugging 25th anniversary of Raw. Coming up, we're going to celebrate 25 years of Raw. And it's like, Raw hasn't been good for the last...
I won't go that far.
2 years or so.
I won't go that
Since
far.
the brand split, it really hasn't been that great.
I like the brand split.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying Raw hasn't been that great. And Raw has the best superstars, and they still manage to put on crappy shows.
Wow.
Because when you're doing stuff like this,
Yeah,
like, who cared about this? Every holiday, when there's a show that falls on a holiday, they always plug.
Yeah, they have to do a holiday theme,
and I don't like that. But we're in the middle of a Survivor Series build. We still don't know who Team Raw is, who Team SmackDown is, and we got time to dedicate for a trick or street fight.
Well, I mean,
give me a break.
With that. Well, SmackDown now. With that being said, I feel like SmackDown has to do a Halloween themed match.
I hope they don't,
because it is Halloween. Like today is literally Halloween. I know. I agree. But I'm just saying, if they're gonna make Raw do it, I mean, in the same sense, none of those four were going to be on Team Raw anyway, and with a possible chance that they won't even be on the pay-per-view at all.
We need to build. Well, this is one of your major pay-per-views of the year. We have time to dedicate time for this. Really? Honestly,
my argument isn't really with the theme match, because I know that Raw has, WWE has been doing this for years. But for me, this match was so horrible. Like, just the general, like, it was just thrown together. Like, it's almost like they just told them what to do. Hey, I want y'all to do the little bobbing for apple, put some pumpkins on your head, put some more pumpkins on your head, and put somebody through a table. Like, there was no thought to it. There was no real storytelling. Like, even back in the day, like, the 90s themed matches were kind of good. Were somewhat good themed matches. Even though, like I said, it was still themed matches, whatever holiday it was based off of. But it was a decent match. Like, you kind of wanted to see it. And the fact that the theme just made it a little bit more fun and more kid-friendly. Because back in the day, it was more of an aggressive PG-14 and Huck kind of show that gave you a kid spot. So, no.
That should have never been on the show. Like the whole food fight they had the 4th of July theme the other year. Why are we doing this?
That was fun to me. That was the kid.
It was fun though, because I like when the Big Show got hit.
Exactly.
I was like, oh.
See, yeah, that was the kid spot.
That's the only one I could give a pass to. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. This one was just really horrible. It was horribly put around. It was just horrible. And then the end part of it, literally, the ending was Rhino laying on the table, Carl Anderson up top, and Luke Gallows, and both of them decided to put pumpkins on their heads. And the only reason they lost is because Luke Gallows put the pumpkin on backwards, and somehow he didn't have enough fundamental skills to turn his pumpkin around on his head, while Rhino slams him through the table for the win.
Survivor Series building for it.
No. Look. I understand your purpose, but I still, like I said, I'm used to the tradition of the holiday theme matches.
I don't like it.
You don't like it. The kids need that. If anything else, the kids deserve that. I like that. For the kids, I like that. And even for me a little bit. I used to really love the theme matches.
The kids deserve quality booking and building toward the Survivor Series, who we have no idea who's going to be doing what.
But it's the thrill. We got what now after tonight's Monday night.
We're going to rush it together.
No, because I really think the reason that Raw on its end is hesitant right now is because they're kind of basing it off of how healthy Roman Reigns will be in that due time.
Roman will be back for it. He'll be back.
Yeah, I know, but that's what they're waiting on. Like they're going to give you honestly, I feel like they won't finalize their team until the week of, and our 5th member is.
I think that's when you're going to get the attack on SmackDown, that last show before the show. That's when Raw gonna come in.
Or they could have done it tonight.
Could have.
I don't know. So, all right. So we're almost done with Raw. We have a couple more matches, 2 more matches left, and we have to give you the finale, or I guess, of what happens with Miz as he feels the ominous threat of Braun Strowman looming in the Raw arena this week. So, but we're running out of time right now, so we're going to take this break, start up a new podcast to continue Monday Night Raw, give you some more on the World Series, and give you a little bit of what's going on in the NBA, and then give our Week 9 NFL predictions. We are Sports Moods, 2 Moodys,
1 duty.
Sports.